p.m. I will call this City Council meeting of September 16th, 2025 to order. We acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people and pay our respect to those past and present. Our invocation today is provided by Pastor Matthew Erikson from the First Reformed Church. If everyone could please stand. And then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we come together this evening as leaders, as neighbors, and servants of the Oak Harbor community. We are grateful for the beauty of the city, for the waters that surround us, and for the people who call this place home. Lord, grant wisdom to our council members as they consider matters that shape the well-being of our community. Give them clarity in decision-making, patience in listening, and courage to pursue what is just and what is fair. May their work be marked by respect, collaboration, and a vision for the common good. We ask your blessing on those who serve our city daily, our first responders, our educators, and workers who keep Oak Harbor safe and thriving. We also remember those in our community who face challenges, asking that they may be and we may be attentive to their needs. Guide us in this meeting so that all we do contributes to the flourishing of this city that we love so much. Amen.
Councilmember Wiggins, if you could lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. All right, there are some more seats on the end and some up front if you would like to come up to the front. This will be both a physical meeting and a virtual meeting. Some members of city staff or consultants may be participating via teleconference. Today's meeting may be viewed on YouTube, Facebook, and following the meeting on cable, Channel 10, HD 1090. Everyone is present and accounted for except for Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Wiesner is participating remotely, so I would entertain a motion to excuse Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Attorney Lisa Marshall is attending for City Attorney Hillary Evans tonight, so we have a different attorney that is participating in the meeting with us. Are there any suggested changes to the regular agenda? If none, it is approved as presented then. All right, we have a presentation this evening from our 2025 Whidbey Island Marathon event recap. And here to introduce that is Jared Loranger of Fizz Events. Jared?
Yep, sorry, I was just trying to get my camera to work. It finally came on there. So, thank you, Council, for having me. As mentioned, my name is Jared Loranger. I'm the race director for the Whidbey Island Marathon. I don't know how many years I've been doing this now, but this year, thankfully, was the best weather we've had, actually. It didn't rain the entire weekend and saw lots of smiles. So, that was a good bonus. That was a good start to the presentation here. So, as mentioned, I'm here to present the Whidbey Island Marathon from April 27th of this year and just talk about a few of the stats and all the different things that happened at the race. We'll go to the next slide here. This next slide just talks about the marathon demographics, similar to last year. Bottom left-hand corner, you can kind of see the different number of attendees we had for each one of the distances. These numbers are pretty consistent with what 2024 was as well. And then I like to try and provide some of the fun facts that we have, some of the different demographics for both age, gender, and then geographic region. One of the things our goal is every year at this race is to bring as many people as we can from off island and out of the area to continue to boost those hotel room nights and to just show off Whidbey Island and Oak Harbor as a whole. So one of the cool things out of those 1,520 participants, you can see that we had over 55% traveling from outside of 50 miles. And that number equaled 814 there, as you can see in the stats. Average age was 36, which was pretty average for the marathon distance or half half marathon distance. Again, normal as well. 59% of those participants were female compared to 41% of male. States represented this year, we had about 34 states represented, and this year 2 countries, USA and Canada. And very cool fact, we had 464 plus room nights represented this year, which is something that the Lodging Tax Advisory Council looks favorably upon, and this was actually a bigger number than we had in the previous couple of years. So once again, we sold out almost every room in Oak Harbor and multiple throughout the island, which is really neat to see. We continue to see that number increase year after year, which is fantastic. Breakdown there in the top left, the half marathon is always the most popular distance. You've got to train, but you don't need to train nearly as much as you do for 26 miles. So that one's always the biggest distance for us. And again, this year we had 600 finishers out of the 1,520 participants. I'll go to the next slide here. Next slide, this just shows some of the marketing efforts we do. As you can see, these are the different shirts offered. The design in the middle, that was our medal. Everybody got a different medal that looked just like that. It either said your marathon distance, half marathon, 10K or 5K. Bibs are in the upper corner there. And then on the left are just some of the marketing initiatives we did. So we send out over 8 emails a year to a 52,000 person database that stretches across the Pacific Northwest and throughout the United States, but really focuses on that Washington, Canada, Oregon location. And these are all runners that are either from our race in previous years or from other races in the area that either I produce or I work with other race directors to partner with and exchange email databases. Once again, this year via Whidbey shuttle, we did wraps on buses that travel up and down the island and I-5 corridor. So we're getting that message out all the way down to SeaTac Airport and up through Bellingham, which is super neat. In fact, one day going to the airport, I actually saw it on my way from Seattle, which was kind of cool. To say, I helped create that, which is kind of neat. We did additional social media promotions via Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and paid marketing on these channels, as well as print publications that either are specifically for runners like Race Center Northwest, Run Guides, Adventures Northwest, but we also, again, continued to partner with Whidbey Weekly this year to get ads either weekly throughout or months at a time to promote either volunteer needs, participant registrations, the expo, potential sponsors, stuff like that. So just a sample of where we had ads. We also had ads up in a couple of different Bellingham magazines, as well as all the way down to Olympia and Oregon as well. Next slide, please. Next slide just talks about our volunteers. This is a race that is extremely well supported across the island. We get volunteers that come from military base. We get high school groups. We get local faith groups, as well as groups such as Oak Harbor Senior Center, the Kiwanis, the Lions, and they all come out in force to help promote or support the race via water stations, at our pre-race packet pickup, at the post-run area, handing out medals, handing out the food, the water, helping us with the start line, and just acting as course monitors either along those courses or at the kids race. Just a breakdown, we had over 220 volunteers throughout the weekend. Thank you, McCall, for again sending out participant letters with acknowledgement from the mayor as well to each one of those people. I know that's something that the military volunteers look forward to every year, getting those hours to stick in their files, help with their promotions, and continuing to get advancements. But here's a quick breakdown. We had over 20 at the pre-race expo on Saturday. We had 50 start and finish line volunteers. Some of those volunteers got up at 4 in the morning, just like my crew, and met us out at the start line at Pass Lake, which is awesome. 25 plus course monitors throughout the course, as well as flaggers, just making sure those runners are out there safe and going the right direction. And then we had over 150 water station volunteers. I asked for anywhere from 4 to 10, and groups usually bring out anywhere from 10 to 20 to support the race, cheer on the runners, kind of create a party. So they're able to bring out pop-up tents, and I know they cook food out there, and just cheer on those runners as they're going by either on the half course or the full course, which is really neat to see. Again, I think I saw a few of the council members at the start line as well. So thank you for all the city officials and council members that were out supporting the race, along with our volunteers, participants, race announcers, officials, and our ham operators who are volunteers that come out and act as some of our medical and safety personnel and the eyes and ears on the course. So it was a fantastic year this year. Great turnout, and like I said, the water was the best I've seen in over 10 years. So that definitely added smiles. That's for sure. The one thing I always try and highlight as well is the 2025, what worked well, and obviously what our focus is on years to come. One of the cool things that I'm able to do, hopefully for 2026, is to partner with the Bellingham Bay Marathon and create a bundle package, which gets us visibility every time somebody's registering via the Bellingham website, or vice versa, offering them a small discount to register for both, so we can get them on the hook for two different races. Just helps keep those runners coming back and supporting the local races, as well as if I sign up early, chances are I'm going to convince somebody else to come up and either run the same race with me or run one of those smaller distances. So with that partnership, I think we'll be able to hopefully boost our participation a little bit next year. And it's one of those things we can really track, which is great. Our focus will be to continue bringing in those out-of-town guests, keep promoting Whidbey Island as a destination race, as either a close destination for people in Seattle or up in Vancouver, Canada, but also to make this a racecation, as they'd call it. So a lot of runners like to take a vacation based on where they can go run. And this is one that I know a lot of people look forward to because of the beauty and because of how well it's supported by the community. So our goal is to do that. One of the major things that I put on this list was a possible partnership with Oak Harbor's Chamber of Commerce and Holland Happen. So the idea was just an idea before I put this presentation together. The idea was to possibly create one weekend where we do both events, because Holland Happening focuses a lot more on Friday and Saturday. Hopefully we can get some of those people to show up, stick around, and run the race on Sunday, or introduce some of those people who come for the running race to something else neat that we do in Oak Harbor, and that's Holland Happening. So after this, we had a few conversations both with the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce as well as staff at the city, and it sounds like we're going to make it a go. We're going to give it a shot this next year, is to create one big weekend with a lot of different events for a lot of those out-of-town guests, but also give more things for the community to do up and down Whidbey Island. So I'm excited for it. I think it'll bring a lot more eyes to the marathon. I think it might help get us more support for the marathon. And with Eric at the Chamber being now the executive director, him and I have had a great relationship for 10 years now, since he's been at Whidbey Weekly. He's got his pulse on the community, and we were discussing how we can bring in a few more of those community groups, as well as some of the community businesses as well, to support the race, either at the pre-race packet pickup event or at the finish line, and try and turn that into a little more of a community celebration besides just a celebration of those runners. So that's something I'm really excited about. I think it also helps us get 1 week further into the calendar year, which that's where we were this last year, which promises a lot better weather, a lot less wind, and a lot just more comfortable temperatures for runners to participate in. One of the last things that I didn't put on the list that I thought of as I was getting to it is we just came up with a brand new logo for the event. I'm super excited. It's the first time we've had a brand refresh in the past, what I think's been about 15 years. So I think it'll be a really well received logo. We put in a lot of work with the design team to go through about 10 different logos, and I think some of the council members as well as the city had votes on those, and it was one of the top two favorites for me as well. And I think it's going to look awesome on race shirts, awesome on the medals, and give people a new visual to look at when they're signing up for the race, which is really neat. Give a lot of the stuff we've had for a lot of years a nice refresh. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see what happens in 2026 and beyond. So thank you again for letting me be a part of this race. It's one of my favorite I do throughout the year. And I'm excited for all the changes and the cool things we can do in 2026. So thank you. I'd love to open it up to questions or comments. And if there's anything I can answer, shoot my way, please.
Great. Thanks for that detailed presentation, Jared. Are there any comments by questions or comments from council at this time? Councilmember Stuckey.
Thanks for that, Jared. That's definitely music to my ears with my LTAC role hearing about those heads and beds. I did the half this last time, loved it, so I'm looking forward to going to seeing you at Past Lake next year. I'm still working on your request. You asked me if I could do anything about making the area flatter. I'm still working on that, but again, you have to call the county because they got the majority of that. Thank you.
That's very fair, and I plan to continue to do that with you. So whatever I can do to take those hills out, I'll do my best.
It's easy. It's really no big deal. It's just paperwork. It's no problem.
Perfect.
Great. Thanks, Councilmember Stuckey. Anybody else? Yes, Councilmember Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. As Jared mentioned, we've worked together for about 10 years now, and he's always done a phenomenal job with the marathon, and I look forward to supporting him, continuing in this role and creating a bigger, better event each year. So, appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.
Eric, I didn't know you were on the council now. I wanted to give you so many great props. Congrats. It's good to see you, and glad I have another smiling face on the council.
Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you very much again, Jared, for your presentation.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to move on to public comments. Members of the public may comment on consent agenda items or subjects of interest not listed on the agenda at this time. There will also be an opportunity to comment on the remaining agenda items during the meeting as appropriate. Comments on public hearing items will be heard during that portion of the agenda. The public can also visit our website prior to our meetings for methods to submit public comments or contact the city clerk, Julie Nestor, by phone or email. When submitting comments, please include your name and address. Public comments sent anonymously or from a non-verifiable address will be shared with the mayor and council but will not be displayed. We received several new public comments since our last regular meeting, and they are displayed at this time. All of these comments are in the packet too that are on the link on the website, so you can go back and read them at a later time if you want. So. Oh, well, we can provide them, can't we? Okay. So the YouTube video also, sorry, they're not on there. I apologize. I thought they were. All right. Are there any members of the public present who wish to speak to items not listed on the agenda or on the consent agenda? If so, the clerk will call your name in the order in which you signed in to speak. Please step forward to the microphone and state your name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Julie?
Thank you, Mayor. First up to speak is, and I hope that I say your names correctly, Justoni Jimenez. Would like to speak regarding pickleball and basketball.
Someone's got to go first, man.
Sure. Well, I'm here representing my half. I'm the guy
Please state your name, address. Yep.
I'm Justoni Jimenez, 780 Southwest Puffin Street, Oak Harbor, Washington.
I'm Lamont Webster, 2028 Baymont Drive, right here in Oak Harbor, Washington.
Gentlemen,
President
if
of
you
the-
could speak one at a time, please.
I'll go first. It's fine.
Yeah, you go.
Okay. So I'm the guy that does the basketball tournaments every summer at Windjammer. And I know there's a battle between pickleball and having the basketball courts, and there's no beef between both groups. I will say I've been running these basketball pickup games through our online Facebook page, Whidbey Island Basketball, and then also our Instagram, and have been doing these since 2008. I've graduated here, and I would say out of all the courts that pickleball should use, it would have to be Fort Nugent. I mean, we don't really utilize it as much due to the undersize of not having it regulated, and then the rims being too small, double rimmed and small backboards, versus the new park that we've been given by you guys. And I've been utilizing that court since 2020 with these tournaments, bringing teams from out of the town, Bremerton, Seattle, Bellingham, and taking that away from us, it would be a shame, having to run a pickup game and being forced to move to a different location would just be, we wouldn't have nowhere to go. Saratoga would probably be the Saratoga Heights being the closest, but with the amount of people that show up, military police will just kick us out. Other than that, there's nowhere else for us to actually play. And that being said, if there's a way for our city to make these tournaments bigger, if you guys can provide indoor gyms that we can run these tournaments, I'd be more than happy to get those situated. But I know that's not easy. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Great. Thank you very much for your comment. Thank you. Yep, you're good.
Mayor, the next person that signed up to speak is Darren Cook.
Hi, I'm Darren Cook with the Whidbey Pickleball Association. Before I jump in, I want to say that not only are we not at odds, but you're my brother. And I couldn't believe it when these guys were here. I'm like, oh, thank you, Jesus, because I love these guys, and we've got no beef with you. Windjammer is a great place, great courts. We're not interested in that. So, there's my glasses. Mayor Wright, council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Oak Harbor pickleball enthusiasts have been advocating for courts for more than 12 years. Yet today, there are still no pickleball courts provided by the city. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the country, and Oak Harbor is no exception. We fully support the Parks and Rec Department plan for an 8-court complex at Fort Nugent, and it'll be a tremendous asset. But the reality is, Fort Nugent is still in the permitting stage, and even in the best case, it's 2 years away. We are hopeful about the future facility, but pickleball cannot be played on designs, blueprints, and on hope. Pickleball needs to be played on courts, and right now, Oak Harbor has none. Thank you.
So, Mr. Cook, could you just state your address for me, just for the record, because we normally start that way? So,
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
750 Southwest Thornberry Drive.
Great, thank you. I just didn't want to interrupt you, so thank you very much for your comment.
Next to speak is Lamont Webster.
I can go now. All right. I'm Lamont Webster, 2028 Baymont Drive, and I'm the president of the Oak Harbor Basketball Club. Like Darren said, I go way back with Darren since he was little. No, I'm just I'm here. I just want to make sure I make it clear, like just Stoney did and Darren did. I'm here for basketball, but not against pickleball, right? And so I try to, with sports, be an ambassador for all the sports in Oak Harbor, volleyball, whatever the sport is, just us finding a way to do it all together. It seems to be a huge saturation of sports right now in Oak Harbor, which is a good thing, but it's either not enough people or not enough facilities to go around. So we're all fighting that same battle. And so I feel for the pickleball community, but we have courts, and so with that, I think Windjammer Park, like my buddy on the adult side said, just Stoney is the amazing spot. We try to do a lot of work with that park and bringing tournaments here. In 2023, we held a youth tournament there, and it was said during the parks meeting that, that tournament they saw this year was the first time that anything like that's been done, but that's not true. The Adult League has done it since 2020, and we did a tournament there in 2021. We've been trying to plan tournaments there ever since. It just fell through in the past 2 years because our goal now is to, now that we've held one, is to grow it. So we're working with outside resources, and we applied for LTAC last year. We wanted to bring in, like these guys do, more outside community, Anacortes, LaConner, Seattle, Marysville, but we just ran out of time and it didn't work out. So we tried it again this year, same thing, plans fell through, and we're already in work on something right now to try to bring a bigger basketball tournament here, and we're starting communication with teams in Snohomish and those areas as well. So we're working on it, but we do. I just wanted to counter the two things that were said at that meeting that, they didn't think that basketball uses the court, but we do, and we are organized. The adult side and the youth side talk all the time, so I just wanted to counter those two comments. They were made during that meeting, and that's not true. So at least you have faces to who's running the events now. I have the youth side, and my buddies here have the adult side. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Next is Huerta Stefiana.
I am Stefiana. No, I am Stefania Huerta, 2674 Southwest Talon Loop, Oak Harbor, Washington. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I bow often, so it's just what I do. I'm speaking on behalf of, honestly, preparing for this, I was speaking on behalf of basketball. Yeah. And I looked further into the pickleball community, and you guys come so strong. Oh my gosh, I just have to honor that for a moment. You guys are, I think it's Mr. Don, is that your name? Mr. Don, I was watching some of your stuff, and I was just like, it's tremendous efforts, and I feel you, I hear you. I agree that there should be more pickleball courts. I agree that there should be more amenities. I don't want to say I disagree. I agree, exclamation. However, I feel that taking an amenity from one place and kind of like having a loss, I guess you can call it, is something. So I speak on behalf of the youth. I'm a youth mentor, I'm a youth advocate, and a lot of youth that I serve just want to go shoot hoops. And these guys run tournaments, and they're going full court. And the youth I serve, they just want to go out there with headphones on and just shoot around. It's very big with mental health. And it's not that they can't get introduced to pickleball, which would be amazing. The goal is community, conversation, collaboration. So that's the main goal. It's just familiar to them. So when they walk, I don't know if you guys have seen kind of lower income neighborhoods, there's typically not a pickleball court there. There's typically a basketball hoop or a handmade basketball hoop. So I'm just here to, not that it will die with your guys' passion, but keep the conversation alive and the collaboration alive, to make sure that there's no miscommunication. Things can get misconstrued. What do you mean they're taking our courts? And then it's a huge battle. So if enough of us are here to really set the record straight, I think that that'll be really beneficial for the city. So thank you so much again for allowing me to speak, and that's all I've got.
Thank you for your comments.
Yes, absolutely.
Next is Asaya Plumley.
Asaya Plumley, 2126 Colonial Way. I came to support basketball. I grew up here, and I've just played basketball my whole life. We used to go to the old courts on the other side, when the courts were over there at City Beach. And I play a lot, and I think a lot about basketball as a community site and a site for kind of what you're mentioning. I think for transformation and for connection, and I go there at all times of the day just to go shoot around, and I meet people of all ages and a variety of demographics. I think I think basketball is a uniquely special kind of sport that brings people together because of the format and the numbers and the creativity and the spontaneity involved in it. That I'm sure pickleball does a lot of the similar things. I just haven't thought as much about pickleball before. But for basketball, as a person who grew up here, when I've moved and I've come back, I've gone to the basketball court to reconnect with people who I maybe haven't been in touch with before. I know that my nephews do the same thing, that when they come into town, they might not call people, they'll just go to Windjammer and they'll just go to the courts and they'll shoot around, and it just serves this real kind of social function, which I think is vital, that we don't have maybe as many spots for young people and active people in Oak Harbor as maybe we would like to. So the basketball serves as one of those really important kind of cultural sites for a lot of people in Oak Harbor. And I've gone there all times of day, all throughout summer I've been there, informed. I haven't gone to any of these formal tournaments and stuff, but I know that it gets used otherwise. I saw some of those comments on the Facebook thing, so I wanted to show up and just say, I love basketball and I love Oak Harbor, and I hope we can keep the courts and get pickleball courts.
Thank you very much.
Mayor, the next person that signed up to speak is speaking on an agenda item.
Okay. Is that the last person signed up?
Yes.
All right. Is there anyone here that is not signed up to speak that would like to step forward and speak on an item that is not on the agenda at this time? Yes, please step forward, state your name and address, and limit your speech to 3 minutes, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thanks for having me. My name is Garrett Green, 330 Northeast 7th Avenue. So, as many of you are aware, Whidbey Island has a homeless problem and a drug addiction problem. I have lived here for 3 years as a law-abiding citizen and a community member. And in that time, I've personally witnessed or been informed by neighbors or coworkers of unsatisfactory effects due to this ever-increasing problem. So let me just get right to the point. I've had packages stolen, drug addicts bed down in the woods and prowl about my property. During the late night hours, I've run into medicine addicts in public, in broad daylight, and many other public encounters. There's probably too many stories to fit in this 3 minutes. Also, the other day, a vagrant with likely perverted intentions followed my wife during a walk last week. I had to pick her up as she sought refuge in a local business. I have cameras to maintain situational awareness around my property, especially when I'm deployed. But I've had situations where a homeless man stored his property on my property. Police told me he was well known and harmless. I can't trust that, obviously. Also, there was a bike riding vagrant, as mentioned, that stole my package. With clear video, I was told that he would need to steal 20 total before he was actually charged, so nothing we could do about that. Just last night, I had my pavers intentionally disturbed at 2 a.m. by a masked man, full masked getup, emerged from the woods. I think it's a send a message to me. Stop calling police on us, or what are you going to do about it? Oftentimes, we have several children at play while regular intruders trespass on the property. Both my landlords do not appreciate this, but it's hard to catch them because as soon as they appear, they disappear. We were about to go for a walk last night, almost intersected with a guy pounding his fist saying, "I'm a real man." God knows what he was saying to himself, then started sprinting at full speed. Thank God we didn't cross paths with him. Last month, the drug-enraged vagrant screamed obscenities in the woods for over an hour while children played 200 yards away. A year ago, and now this is, keep in mind, this is 7th Avenue near the wetland buffer zone. That's where they kind of bed down, so maybe you want to take some drones or actually go in there yourself, some commercial drones, you can see where they are. They're good at hiding in there. I'll wrap this up really quick. 1 year ago, an addict impaled herself and screamed in the woods at 3 a.m., oh God, help me," until first responders arrived. It was difficult for them to find her in there. But we all know what happens. They come here from off the island, and then they go to spin in the early morning hours and then filter out to terrorize Oak Harbor Rights. And I just think it's unsat. We want to see results. We want to see it. We don't want to hear things are getting done behind the scenes. We want to see it. I respect all of you, and I thank you for the time tonight. Thank you for letting me say my piece.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that is here with us this evening that would like to step forward and make comment on an item? Yes, please step forward, state your name and address, and limit your comment to 3 minutes.
TJ Ewan, 535 Southeast 3rd Court. Don't have a speech prepared, but I'm a part of the Whidbey Pickleball Association. I moved here 3 years ago. I was looking for a community. I came to this island and did not know a soul. And I had a conversation with my wife one night. And I'm like, I need a community to where I can get to know people. And lo and behold, I heard that there was a pickleball in the Red Barn. And I went to the Red Barn, started playing pickleball. And this is where I found my community. My community is the pickleball community. I grew up playing sports, basketball. I hear everything that they're saying. I support basketball. It has made me to who I am today, playing sports. And pickleball is not only for old and young and everybody in between. Like, we need pickleball courts. The school right now where we play, they're unsafe. Like, the roots growing through those courts right now are completely unsafe. The school could just say, hey, no more. And then where are we going to go? We're going to have to drive 45 minutes to Mount Vernon, 35 minutes to Anacortes, just to play pickleball, whenever there is spots in Oak Harbor that could be turned into pickleball courts right now. I'm not saying take over Windjammer Park. That is a beautiful park. Keep that as a basketball court. That is absolutely gorgeous. Just give us a little space until the city can figure out what they're going to do with grants, what they're going to do with the 8 pickleball courts that they have planned to build. I know that's a couple years out. So I'm for the pickleball courts. It brings community. It brings friends, family. I can call up these people right now, a lot of them, and say, hey, I need my yard mowed. They'll come mow my yard. Hey, my wife needs this. And I met them all through pickleball. Like, it's more than just a pickleball sport. It's a community. It's family. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. Is there anybody else? Yes, please step forward, state your name and address, and limit your comment to 3 minutes, please.
My name is Mark DeYoung, 1968 White Horse Way, Oak Harbor. I'm not the president of any organization. I'm just a pickleball player. I'm closer to 79 than I am 78. It's part of my exercise regimen, keeps me going, keeps me alert and alive with younger people. I don't have time to wait for that new wonderful pickleball court. We should be able to do something a little sooner. That's all.
Thank you very much for your comment, sir. Is there anybody else? Yes, sir. Step forward, state your name and address, and limit your comment to 3 minutes, please.
Brian Supplewit, 1175 Southwest Heller. I also did not have a speech prepared, but I am part of the Pickleball Association, just like most of the people here, and we need some place to play. I mean, it is very unsafe. The courts that we have are not real courts. They are holes. There are roots growing out, as you said. When we try to play at the barn, that's not any good. We tried playing at my school because I'm a teacher here. That doesn't work either. It's not anything close to the same. And it's tough. Like Mr. Ewan said, I'm a big basketball, volleyball fanatic myself. And then COVID happened. And then there was none of that going on for a while. And then I see people playing pickleball. And I had no idea what it was. And that was the only thing going on over in the Pullman area. And they had lots of courts, and I started playing, and it became a huge part of everybody there, as me as well. And I moved here wanting to continue that, and there wasn't much. But everybody here that I've met, I think that we've all become friends, because this is who we are and this is what we want to do. And we play every single day. At least I try. But we can't a lot of the times because it's not safe and there's too many of us. There's nowhere to go. I myself drive to Mount Vernon almost every single week just so I can play. And they're happy to have me there. They are. But I want to stay here. I want to play with you guys. I want to be in my town with great players that are here. So I just hope you guys continue to lean towards us. Thank you much.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to step forward and make comment? Yes, please step forward, state your name and address, and limit your speech to 3 minutes, please.
Hi, I'm Yelsi Canales, 1954 SW Harborview Lane. So I started playing pickleball when I couldn't play soccer anymore. I was a soccer player. I got pregnant, so then I got introduced to pickleball. Like they said, my 2-year-old plays pickleball. You should see him. He's really good. He's out there hitting the ball. And then James is 80 plus, and he also plays pickleball. So when I moved to the island, there was nowhere to play pickleball. I did find my community and the little school, Christian school that they have. My husband got deployed. They came and cut my lawn for me. They also helped me take care of my 2-year-old and my 9-month-old now. So I don't know what I would have done without you guys. So yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Step forward, state your name and address, and limit your speech to 3 minutes, please.
Hello, my name is Kylie Hickam. I live at 449 Southwest Dyer Street. I just wanted to say the reason not very many young people play pickleball is because there is nowhere to play pickleball. I graduated from the high school in 2023. I played tennis, I played soccer, I played basketball, I've done all of the sports that you can do here. And one of the things that I ran into after I graduated and started college was after you finish school sports, it's kind of hard to find something to fill up your time with, and pickleball was that for me. I think that more young people would play pickleball if there were, I guess, nicer facilities to play it at. I have 2 younger sisters. One is 15, she goes to the high school. The other is 10, she goes to the intermediate school. They are always asking me if they can come play pickleball. I take them, their friends come and play pickleball, and they all really enjoy it. So I think it would be a nice addition, I guess, to have some other courts. Maybe like if they decide to go to Fort Nugent, hey, like, let's go play at the park. They can play basketball or they can go and play pickleball, but at least there's the option to do so. And I think that it would be a good decision to kind of split it up so everybody has, I guess, a fair shot. So thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, is there anyone else that would like to step forward and make comments at this time? We've already gone. So you can save your shout outs for next time, though. All right, so we are going to then close public comment at this time, since there is nobody else that wants to step forward and for your comment through you. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I've done a few of these meetings where folks leave their public comments and then they leave. And I'm not suggesting you guys stay through the entire meeting, because let's be honest, sometimes I'm bored up here too. But at least stay through council comments, because that's where we address some of these sort of things. So I just want to point that out.
And it's not that much further along, so bear with us just to get through a few things. All right, we will now move to the consent agenda. Staff has presented the listed consent agenda items, all of which were included in the meeting packet. Are there any objections or changes to the consent agenda as presented? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion. Yes, Councilmember Romero.
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented by Councilmember Marrow, seconded by Councilmember Wittgenstein. Is there any further discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. I see you, Jim. Thank you very much, Councilmember Wiesner. All right, we are going to move on then to my comments. Bear with me, I'll go through them quickly. First, I want to give a huge shout out to Sandra Place for helping our ICOM team work through their RFP process on obtaining a consulting firm. So thank you very much, Sandra. They were very appreciative for all your hard work, and I just want to give you a huge shout out in front of everyone now. I would also like to thank Navy League. The 22nd annual Military Appreciation Picnic was a great success with 1,500 people in attendance. Thank you to several council members for attending, along with City Administrator Combs, Public Records Officer Nicole Bradley, and Communications Intern Nolan Saltonstall. And special thanks to all of the volunteers that make this event so successful. Our first annual Harvest at the Harbor, it was a huge success. Thank you to Parks and Recreation for launching this new annual event this past Saturday at the Oak Harbor Marina and Catalina Park. Thank you to our Parks and Marina staff and great volunteers for supporting this event. I would like to congratulate Councilmember Wittgenstein, who has earned his Certificate of Municipal Leadership from the Association of Washington Cities. It's my pleasure to present you your certificate on behalf of all Washington cities. So congratulations, Councilmember Wittgenstein. All right, way to go, Wildcats. We have congratulations to Oak Harbor High School Color Guard member Abigail Giuliano and trumpet player Bradley Price, who are headed to the 2026 Rose Parade. They are the first students to represent Oak Harbor in this national event. State of the City, I will be presenting our annual State of the City address at the Greater Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce Luncheon on Thursday, September 18th. The luncheon will be held at the Oak Harbor Fire Department. I'm looking forward to providing important updates on current projects, community initiatives, and the city's future plans. I understand this will be a recorded, so for those who cannot attend, it will be available to watch at a later time. The Wright Blend, our next Wright Blend coffee and conversation with the mayor that was scheduled for this coming Friday, September 19th at Regency on Whidbey is being rescheduled at their request. A new date will be announced. Upcoming events. There are a number of events to look forward to in October. Dia de Fiesta, celebrating Hispanic Latino Heritage Festival, will be October 4th on Pioneer Way in downtown Oak Harbor. Visit their website, diadefiestawa.com, for vendor opportunities and information. Elegance and Art, a dinner and auction to benefit the Whidbey Homeless Coalition, will be October 25th at the Center in Oak Harbor. Visit their website at whidbeyhomeless.org for more information. We have advisory board vacancies. We still have openings on several of our city advisory boards and commissions. See the city's website for information on how to apply and requirements for applicants. Stay connected to city information and activities at any time by visiting our website and our Facebook page. And with that, I will turn it over to council at this time for their questions or comments. Councilmember Arms.
The event Saturday at the marina with the Parks Board was awesome. Got to meet a lot of people, explained about what's happening at the marina. It was fun to see the kids and see everybody out there. It was an awesome day, and it was just really nice. I think more and more people understood Catalina Park and understood where the marina is and what was available, and so I thought it was a huge success and something we should repeat.
Thank you, Councilmember Arms. Councilmember Stuckey.
Normally when I see a crowd this size, I'm expecting the pitchforks. That was by far one of the most civil discussions I've seen in a while. I was expecting more drama, but I'm not complaining. It was interesting as I was listening to some of those addresses. I live on Silverberry, so Colonial, Thornberry, I mean, I'm right there. So we're neighbors in proximity, but I think we're all neighbors in this small community too. So do we have someone from Parks and Rec here? Is Brian or anyone here?
It's like, wait.
He's in the room right here.
There's the man of the hour. So I didn't know if, and you sent an email about with some updates. I didn't know if you could just give some general overview of kind of what may be going on in pickleball and basketball world, kind of recapping your email a little bit, maybe.
Sure. So the city is currently in planning and permitting for new pickleball court complex at Fort Nugent Park. We submitted the permit site plan review last month, and that initial review will be completed next week. We'll then have a staff applicant meeting scheduled after that. We expect completion and issuance of the permits November, December. And then it's simply a funding question at that point. With funding in place, we could, and weather permitting, we could have courts built out by next summer. With reliance on grants, we did not get the first round of RCO grants, so the next round, they are submitting out their calendars right now. And right now it's looking like February of 2026 will be the opening for the applications. Awards would be near the end of the year. So once funding is awarded, if we get those, we can have those courts built out the following summer. We had the Pickleball Association newly formed, and they're very active in promoting pickleball and looking for timely solutions on how to promote the sport and find areas to play. They came to the Parks and Recreation Commission, and I've been having discussions with us. We met with them several weeks before that to look at different sites. We looked at Sumner Park, which was one of the 4 initial sites we looked at for the pickleball court complex. At that time, we had the tennis community come out in force with their comments around conversion of those courts. So we were also looking at Windjammer Park and Fort Nugent Park. Basically all sports courts. Is there an opportunity anywhere? What would that look like? I'm currently working with our facilities, Sandra Place, with our facilities department to get cost estimates on pulling out the basketball posts, installing pickleball posts, lining courts, putting in a fence, what that cost would be, simply for informational purposes to bring back to the next Parks and Recreation Commission. And we'll have continued discussion, along with public comment, which we've seen virtually here, which I greatly appreciate. I'd like to thank everyone that did come and provide comment on that. So right now we're just in information, looking to see if there's any opportunities. We don't have anything appropriated budget-wise for conversion of any courts right now. Once we get some cost estimates, we can have that discussion.
I think in your email you mentioned something about chalking Fort Nugent basketball.
Yeah, so
could you
I
explain
heard,
that a little bit?
Yes, just yesterday, Tom Jones, who is one of our Parks and Recreation commissioners, has been working with the Pickleball Association to look at the appropriateness of one of the sports courts to possibly convert it. I think on Thursday they were looking to go chalk out some pickleball lines and play a few rounds to see how the surface would work and the space would work, and just information gathering for more discussion.
Yeah, we are into that information gathering phase, but it does seem like Fort Nugent may not be a terrible compromise Plus, I would imagine I've started playing pickleball a little bit more myself. The wind at Windjammer might come into play. Yeah, I'm seeing the nods. Yeah, we know. I grew up playing basketball, though. I want to put that for the record. So, yeah.
Yeah, one idea is we could temporarily convert a court, and then once the new pickleball court complex is installed, convert it back. There's many options. We'll look at all of them and have discussion.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. My only other thing, not to do with Brian, is we had another gentleman who spoke about what's going on at 7th Avenue. We have our police chief here. Could you give, not asking you to address his comments verbatim. I would be surprised if there had to be 20 packages stolen. But can you give a little, is that something we're monitoring at the area? Is this difficult? Is there encampments there? Kind of what's the situation on 7th?
Yeah, definitely. So there are 3 different wetland areas that we monitor throughout the city, and then 7 different pieces of property. Some are owned by the city and then some are privately owned, where encampments have popped up over the years. We currently monthly fly drones through all of those encampments. Recently, we did a cleanup of some old encampments. One of them was on Northeast 7th, 2 different sites on Northeast 7th, and one was on Southwest Barlow, where we cleaned out that old encampment material. But I think the biggest thing is if we need people to call 911 when things are happening, so our officers can respond and address incidents as they're going on. And we are actively looking at how do we direct our resources, because often we only have like 3 officers on at a time. So there's not a lot of resources, but we definitely want to work with the community. So after this, I'm always welcome to talk with anybody and discuss possible solutions and partnering with the community.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming. Making comments here in person directly is always the best way to get things done. Social media can be a plus and a minus. So when you come here and come to us directly, it's nice to see. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilmember Stuckey. Anybody else for the good of the order? Councilmember Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to reiterate Councilmember Stuckey's comments. It's great to hear from everybody and get that feedback. I will remind everybody, however, that nothing in government works quickly, unfortunately. We have to identify funding sources. We have to look at the pros and cons of every situation. And I grew up in this community. I fully understand the lack of facilities. It's something that has been long needed, and I commend Brian and his staff. As you saw through the public comments, we get a lot of requests. It's not just for pickleballs, it's for trails, it's for community garden space. We've had requests for, hockey wants their own facility as well. So there's a lot of need out there, and we recognize that. My passion is for the recreation center. Having grown up here, that's something that's long overdue in this community. But with Brian and his staff and this administration, these are all things that we are looking at now, and all things that we want to tackle to make our community better, to make it stronger, and to support all of you. And I too am very impressed and proud of our community, the way that you've all come together. This is not an us versus them. This is an us, right? This is all of us, and how do we make our community better? And your comments don't fall on deaf ears. We recognize the passion that each one of you has, and we are working as a group to address those and make sure that we make our community the best it possibly can, and provide as many opportunities for the different sports and the different communities that we can. And so keep being passionate about what you're doing. Thank you so much for coming here and voicing your opinions. And just know that we are working on it, and we'll continue to do our best job to make sure that we're meeting the needs of everybody. So thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Marshall. Anybody else for the good of the order? All right, hearing no one going once, going twice, we're going to move on then to our public hearings and meetings. The first item up is annual revenue sources and property tax summary. Here to introduce this topic is our Deputy City Administrator and Finance Director, David Goldman. He will be presenting a summary of annual revenue sources and property taxes.
Don't take it personally.
I don't care. Why is everybody leaving?
You know how to clear a room, David.
I didn't even. All right, is he gonna get that up? All right, good. Some people stayed. Okay.
Doesn't make it more exciting.
Should I just? It's kind of loud. I should wait. Right. All right. So this item is the 2025 mid-year financial review for revenue sources. I'm David Goldman, the Deputy City Administrator and Finance Director. Where's the clicker? Oh, thank you. That's so nice. Thank you. All right, so this report is broken down to two sections. Section 1 is an overview of the unaudited preliminary results from 2024, and Section 2 demonstrates the revenue source trends through June of 2025, and we'll also discuss future trends. That's required per that RCW that you see on the screen there. So the first section, the unaudited preliminary results from 2024 are split into two sections due to the different accounting treatment. You have governmental funds and enterprise funds. So governmental funds, the terminology here is fund balance. All right, so that there you see on the screen and in your packet is the general fund. I put 2023 to 2024 side by side. So on the left side, you'll see the revenues and expenditures. And on the right side, you'll see the fund balance, how it's broken down. So if you go to the 2024 column on the left side, you'll see that we have a total revenues came in at $26.4 million. Expenditures were $22.3 million. That created an increase in fund balance of $4.1 million. So the previous year fund balance was $28.2 million. The next, at the end of 24, we're looking at $32.3 million. And how that's broken down. On the chart on the right, you can see for 2024, we have fund balance broken out into non-spendable, which are basically deposits and things like that. Restricted, which are items that are restricted from outside the city. For example, we have the fire bond unspent proceeds. Those are restricted by the voters. Same with the fire levy lid lift. We have opioid cash settlement funds that are restricted by the agreements. We have funds that are restricted for capital projects and other restrictions there as well, usually related to grants. And we have reserves that are not restricted from outside the city, but are restricted based on city council or administrative action. You'll see that we have the overall operating reserve of $4.3 million, the stabilization reserve of $2.5 million. We have funds from the Sleeper Roads proceeds of $160,000. That hasn't changed from 2023. And we also have the excess stabilization reserve of just over $1 million. That also is unchanged, as well as the capital facilities reserve. We have an economic development reserve that's being generated from the business license revenues that have come in over the baseline. And you can see that the total unencumbered reserve, that's different from those reserves, but it's not a reserve. The total unencumbered fund balance for the general fund has increased from $8.8 million to $10.1 million from 2023 to 2024. And that just shows you the breakdown of how the fund balance works in the general fund. This fund is the home fund for the police department, the fire department, for the finance department, for pretty much all the major things that go on in the city besides Public Works. Public Works is split into a few different funds, such as the Streets Fund and some internal service funds as well. Speaking of which, the Streets Fund is next. You can see that the net change in fund balance it was reduced by $1.35 million as capital projects were underway. Funds that were built up in previous years are now being spent on capital projects. And the fund balance of $3.053 million is broken down between capital projects, other restrictions,
and operating reserve. Those other restrictions are basically the motor vehicle fuel tax and CAPRON money that are restricted by the state of Washington to be used only for streets and arterial type activities. The next is the Transportation Benefit District. This fund contains revenues that were generated by the voter-approved 0.2% sales tax. You can see that revenues exceeded expenditures by about $1 million, which increased ending fund balance. The fund balance in here is increasing. It'll be spent on future transportation projects. It's all restricted, but that's based on the voter-approved Transportation Benefit District sales tax, which is restricted for those uses. Creative arts. The revenues were about $51,000 in 2024. Total expenditures were $90,000 for a use of about $40,000 of fund balance. Fund balance went down to $209,000 by the end of '24, and that's just an other reserve. That's not restricted from outside the city, so that's considered a other reserve. The lodging tax, this is the lodging tax fund. This funds all the grants that the city, actually the grant program's open right now. This funds all the grants that the city gives out regarding tourism promotion for the lodging tax. You can see here for 2024, the total revenues that came in were $360,000. The expenditures were $343,000 for a slight increase in fund balance. Senior services, this fund closed in 2024. It's rolled into the general fund, and you could see by the end of 2024, there's no unencumbered fund balance left. There's a small operating reserve, and there's also a small restricted amount from a donation that we received years ago. That'll all be folded into the general fund this year, and it'll keep the characteristics that it has now. The $40,000 will keep the restricted characteristics to be used for those uses. And this is a compilation of all the other smaller funds, all the other governmental funds. It includes the real estate excise tax, the project funds that we have, and also any kind of debt funds as well. And you could just see in general, the fund balance went down by $429,000, and it's mostly in capital projects or restricted. So the overall preliminary results, this is going back to 2018. You can see the total fund balance on the top portion, and then the available or unencumbered fund balance on the bottom portion. So the total fund balance has generally increased for each fund. Sometimes, like for streets, it's gone down as we spent money on street projects. The TBD is specifically for TBD type roadway projects. That has increased. You could just see the various trends for the total fund balance and also the trends for the unencumbered or available fund balance as well. So next section are enterprise funds. The terminology here is not fund balance, it's net position. If I happen to use the word fund balance, I mean net position. It only matters to accountants. So, water fund. So this is our water fund, 2023 to 2024 comparison. You can see that the income was positive by $212,000 compared to a negative of $282,000 in the previous year. The bottom line is the net change for fund balance is $1.1 million. So the net position or fund balance has been increasing over time. And on the right, you can see how that fund balance is broken down. You have non-spendable fund balance, which is really just, the water infrastructure and facilities and pump stations and all that. That's just locked up into fixed assets. And the rest are in the operating reserve, our rate-funded system reinvestment, our system development fund, and just various water projects. For sewer, we have operating income of about $3.5 million. On the next section, though, that actually goes down a bit because we have, it's kind of odd the way these enterprise funds are accounted for. So we have revenue coming in that pays for the debt, and we do have two debt instruments on the sewer, in the sewer fund, one for the clean water facility. So the revenue comes in the revenue section, but the expenses for the debt end up going into the non-operating revenue/expenses area. It's just an accounting thing. The bottom line is the net change in the net position or fund balance went up by $2 million. And you could see how that's split up on the right side of the screen. Solid waste fund, you can see 2023, 2024 side by side. The bottom line at the very bottom of the screen, the net change in the net position was $252,000. It increased as well in 2023, and the breakdown of how that looks is on the right side, regarding the fixed assets and the operating reserve and so on. The storm drain fund, same story. The net change last year was about $700,000. This year was $610,000, so they're both going in the positive direction. And you can see the breakdown of the fund balance in the right side of the screen. This is the Marina Fund. You go to the bottom there, you'll see that the net change is positive for both years, 23 and 24. The fund balance is at the end of 24, it's $7.15 million. Most of it's in the fixed assets, and you can see how there's some funding in restricted based on insurance proceeds. And you can see there's money in there for the operating reserve and also the projects as well that the council adopted as part of the budget. So this is just an overview, a trend analysis for 6 years for the 5 enterprise funds that we have. The totals are on the right side, and you can see that the total net position has been increasing every year. The available net position actually has been decreasing, but that's primarily due to the fact that the council adopted a facility and infrastructure reserve for replacement. So those funds for the reserve for replacements for each one of these items is actually being kept in an internal service fund. So the money's still there, but it's in an internal service fund like a sinking fund. Go ahead.
Sorry, the cells on 23 and 24, both on this spreadsheet, and then the earlier ones have the green triangle. Is there some special significance to that you would have there?
Yeah, so what I did for 2018 and 2024, I did a formula where I equaled another spreadsheet, and for 2023 and 24, I typed it in. So Excel's telling me I did it differently.
Thank you.
Sorry. Anyhow. So these are the mid-year revenues. This is a different section. We went over the fund balances and net positions. Now we're going to talk about the future revenue trends of our major revenue sources through the end of the first half of this year. So property tax, the trend is pretty much stable. You can see that over the last year, it went up by 3.1% as of the middle of this year. That could be a timing thing. We won't know, of course, until the end of the year closes to see if it's truly going to be 3.1%. But typically, property taxes go up by 1% plus new construction, except when there's a levy lid lift. And you can see there that the voters in 2023, they voted in 22 for a levy lid lift for the fire department and for the bond excess levy to take effect in 2023. That's why you see that large increase there. Sales tax trend. This is temporarily going up due to construction activity. There's construction activity going on with housing construction. There's also some institutional and government uses such as the schools, and also we have a fire station. So as those get built out, our sales tax collections will temporarily increase, and we foresee them going down. Once those projects start to slow down or get completed, we'll see the sales taxes returning back to trend. Utility tax and franchise fees. This is based on the utility tax adjustment that was done to fund the new shift over at the police department. So that's a big increase over last year, but it's going to, start leveling off going forward because that was like a one-time increase that the council adopted. Utility revenues trend. So the revenues decreased because the council adopted a 19% decrease to the sewer rates to take effect this year. The council adopted different rates at the previous meeting. It was, I think it was this month, right? At this month, so what we foresee in the future is that these rates will start to go towards that red line and probably hit it back in 2027 or 2028, based on what we presented at that meeting a couple weeks ago. So development fees and building permits. You can see 2024 was a banner year. Things are coming back to trend towards that average red line that you see there. Permit activity is returning, back to its long-term trend, and we see it going back to that level. The business licenses, we're continuing to collect funds to build up that economic development reserve fund. As more businesses comply with the requirements, we'll see more revenues coming in. But compliance, we've done a lot of compliance over the past year and a half. It's going to start to level off, and we'll start to see funds level off or maybe go up 1 or 2% a year based on whatever we end up getting for 2025. Parks and Recreation revenue continues to go up based on the master fee schedule that was adopted by City Council the previous year and also the year previous to that as well. Real estate excise tax trend, we hit, as interest rates went up over the past couple of years, real estate activity slowed down. So because real estate excise tax is based on real estate transactions, the amount of funding that we got from that funding source decreased. But as you can see, so far mid-year this year, it's getting back to normal. It's actually looks like it's going to be above trend. And as the Federal Reserve cuts rates and as the market adjusts to that, mortgage rates should continue to go down. They're already down pretty substantially over the past 3 or 4 months. If they continue to go down, the theory is there'll be more real estate activity and we'll start seeing more funding for this real estate excise tax. And the primary use of this real estate excise tax is for parks, capital projects, streets capital projects, and also to assist in the operations of those particular types of capital projects. It can be used for other ones as well, but that's primarily what the city has used it for in the past few years. Next slide. Transportation. So the motor vehicle fuel tax and the CAPRON funding that the city of Oak Harbor gets is projected to continue to decrease over time. This is not a sales tax, which is based on the value of the gas that's purchased. It's based on the gallons. So the peak fuel consumption in gallons occurred like 20 years ago. And fuel consumption has been decreasing, a little bit every year for the past 20 years. And because of that, Oak Harbor and everywhere within the state of Washington has been seeing a decrease to these revenue sources. Now, in the legislative session that ended this year, I don't know, April or May this year, they adopted a tweak to this. So we might see a slight increase to this, but it wasn't a tweak that was meant to really last. It might just bump it up, but then start decreasing again. And the bump is like 2.6%. It's not a major bump, but they did pass something that tried to put a Band-Aid on the situation, because the cost of doing street construction, roadway construction has been, it increases every year. And this is a major funding source that most cities have to do that. The Transportation Benefit District sales tax, that's a sales tax. That's also affected by the construction that I talked about with the, with the development construction that I talked about earlier. So we see it temporarily bumping up, and probably within 12 months we'll get back to trend. Lodging tax as well, except it's a little different because you have to stay at the actual, lodging in order to pay this. So that is increasing, the percentage is not as high as the sales tax or TBD type taxes, but it has been increasing over previous years, or at least the previous year. It's about 9% as of half the year. And our interest earnings. So you can see this chart. We were earning almost nothing in 2021, 22. We decided to actually look at our investment policy, work with our investment committee and the council, and put our money to work. And you could see how dramatically that increased in 2023. It's still high in 24. We see it leveling off because every time the Federal Reserve lowers rates, which I think they might do this week, half of our earnings are in the state investment pool, and it's affected by that directly. So we see this decreasing. I don't see it decreasing down to the levels where we're earning nothing, but we don't see it, I don't see it getting to that peak in 2023 for a little while. And this is just a compilation of the total revenues that I went over just before. It includes it includes volatile revenues like grants, bond proceeds, transfers. We get grants some years, we don't get grants other years, even though we keep trying. Insurance recoveries depends on, insurance activity. So this is kind of like the volatile trend. And the last slide has the core revenues, the ones that aren't really volatile like that. And you could see that overall, the trend for our core revenues has been positive over the past 7 years. So the outlook for 2025 are the city financials are stable. We're going to keep an eye on the sales tax and development, real estate related trends. And we're looking for the state to adopt a permanent, resilient fix to the transportation funding woes that all cities and counties and everywhere else in the state has to deal with in order to keep our roads up. And that
All right,
concludes my
David.
presentation.
Thank you very much. So at this time, I will open the public hearing, and I will confirm that no public comments have been received with our city clerk, Julie Nestor.
That's correct, Mayor. No comments were received.
All right, and is there anyone that is here with us this evening that would like to step forward and make comment on this issue? All right, hearing none, I will close the public hearing and call upon council for their questions and comments. This is a summary provided for information and requires no action by the council, so it will just be you making comments or questions at this time. Yes, Councilmember Marion.
Mr. Goldman, in keeping with your exactness, you didn't fail in this case as well, so thank you for that. But I did want to see if you had any warnings about revenue going forward that in the back of your mind serve as a clear and present danger possibly with regard to the funding?
The only thing I could think of is I showed a slide with the other governmental revenues, and a big portion of that are the real estate excise taxes. We've been using the real estate excise taxes to supplement our street activity. And you could also see that, the CAPRON and the motor vehicle fuel tax has not really been keeping up with inflation. So I put it in the budget, it was in the mayor's budget message. I also put it in the budget document regarding that to basically look out for that. We're going to monitor that. If we come to a point where we're just not able to do what we need to do with streets, we'll have to discuss options that are available for that. And that, I should mention, there is a differentiation between the motor vehicle fuel tax and the CAPRON funding sources and the Transportation Benefit District. When the voters approved the Transportation Benefit District about 5 years ago, they approved it to be used for the Street Saver Plan to basically talk about like local roadways. Those funds can't really be used for the arterials and the major collectors. But the motor vehicle fuel tax and CAPRON, then they become what we have available to use for that. And when you're doing something on the arterials and the major collectors, it's usually a little bit more expensive than your local roads. So that's just something we have to, keep our eye on. And I don't foresee any major issues for the remainder of this year, and we'll probably be okay for 26. But I'll give the council an update again at this time next year, and we'll see if we have to take any action or if I need to make any suggestions for council to consider.
Thank you. I think if there's anybody that could sort this out and make it work, it would be you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Marion. Anybody else? Questions, comments on this issue before we move forward? Yes, Councilmember Stuckey.
2 questions that I probably should know the answers to, and maybe you addressed them, but I apologize if I missed it. One, would you remind me when the TBD ends?
The exact date I don't have off the top of my
Year.
head, but I think in 5 years or
Okay.
so. Yeah.
And then with the business licenses, have we assigned that money to anything, or is it just sitting?
We're actually evaluating a plan to bring to council for council to take a look at the different options that we can utilize for that. We've been building it up, and we want to be able to bring to council how much we have like mid-year and how much we anticipate by the end of the year, and the different options that are available for council to consider to utilize that money so we can leverage it to enhance our business the business community.
Do you remember when we made that, what restrictions we placed on it? What we considered economic development?
No,
I don't recall what that
economic
was.
development wasn't specifically, the definition of economic development was not defined by city council. So so basically it's whatever city council deems to be economic development. At this current time, that could change if the council, was to have an exact definition of what that means and tie it to that revenue stream, then that would be a commitment,
Sure, yeah, that's, I remember when we did that, I don't remember that being too restricted. So, okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Stuckey. Anybody else for the good of the order? All right, hearing nothing, thank you, Deputy City Administrator Goldman, and we will move on to ordinances and resolutions. And at the top of the list is ordinance number 2019, amending Oak Harbor Municipal Code, Chapter 10.08.010, relating to speed limits on Washington State Route 20. And here to introduce this topic is our city engineer, Alex Warner.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As the Mayor said, I'm here to present ordinance 2029. So a little bit of background on this one. WashDOT will very soon be constructing a roundabout on Highway 20 at Fakima Road. The image shown here is what they presented to you at a workshop in September of last year. It remains what they are intending to build with their contractor that has been giving me a few phone calls recently. So we're actively coordinating on that construction project. As part of this change to the highway, traffic patterns will change accordingly. WashDOT has performed a speed limit analysis for how the highway will function following the installation of this roundabout. Their proposal recommends reducing the speed limit on this section of highway within the city limits from 50 miles per hour to 45 miles per hour. And that is something that we establish in our city code. So that is now requiring an ordinance to change our city code to align with what WashDOT is looking to do. So we reviewed their analysis. Our engineering division, we agree with it, and very soon, with the passage of this ordinance, those speed limit signs will be swapped out as part of the construction project, and that will, in effect, eliminate all 50-mile-per-hour zones within city limits. And I would say that is in line with our Safe Streets for All and our Target Zero goals that were just adopted by council in spring of this year. So the yellow here shown on the map is the area where the speed limit will change within city limits. It is just north of Northeast 16th Avenue, where currently that speed changes from 40 up to 50. So that will now increase up to just 45 when you're leaving the city. And I have a recommended motion to adopt ordinance number 2029. If I can take any questions.
Great, thanks, Alex. I will first confirm that we received no public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No comments were received.
Thank you very much, Julie. And is there anybody here with us this evening that would like to step forward and make comment on this issue? All right, hearing none, I will call upon council for their questions and comments. And really quickly, before I call upon Councilmember Stuckey, can you just point out, or did they go over it in their WashDOT transportation presentation, how they arrived at where they were putting this roundabout? We're getting a lot of flack that this is coming back on the city and this isn't our determination. So I just wanted to address that here.
Gladly. So the Washington State Department of Transportation, in very broad terms, they have a couple of different pots of money. They've got one for traffic-related congestion issues and one for safety. This project is being funded by those safety dollars. And they are very much data-driven. They look at highways throughout the state and they see where are we having severe and fatal accidents on our highway and what can we do to reduce those. Just through that analysis, this is the one intersection within our city limits. It's just on the edge, but within our city limits in our general area that they identified. They can put in a compact roundabout, reduce the severity and hopefully the number of collisions. And therefore, this has to be a safety-focused project. We've been coordinating with WashDOT. We've reviewed their proposals. We've provided comments. They've run some of our comments all the way to their headquarters office in Olympia. Island County's worked with us on that, and the Navy. So we've been working with WashDOT for, I would say, over 2 years now on this project. But this is not something that the city has taken, the first step to construct this project. It is a WashDOT project.
Great. Thank you for that. And with that, I will turn it over to council for their comments. Councilmember Stuckey.
Let's hope they bring our comments about Swantown and Highway 20 as well. Is the county being asked to change the speed limit on their side? Do you know?
Via email, that is my understanding, but my authority stops at the edge of the city limit. I understand that the 45 mile per hour zone will extend up to Hoffman Road.
Okay. And I'm not going to say I'm someone who occasionally drives 5 miles over because we have our chief of police here. But maybe. Would you kind of give an idea from an engineer's perspective? When I hear 45 to 50, I'm thinking, that's not really anything. I mean, it's 5 miles. Like, would you give maybe an example of what, like, an accident might look at 45 to 50? Or, like, what does 5 miles an hour do from a safety perspective?
Sure. Again, generally, increase in speed, the severity of crashes increase exponentially. So a crash at 20 miles per hour compared to 40, even though the speed's only twice as much, the severity is exponential. So a 5 mile per hour reduction doesn't sound like a lot, but it could have a fairly sizable impact in the reduction of the severity of accidents. But even more so, the implementation of the roundabout is really going to be the piece that reduces severity of accidents. It's going to be 45 miles per hour zone. You're not going to be able to drive 45 miles per hour around this roundabout. You're probably going to have to get down to 15, 20 miles an hour to safely maneuver through the roundabout. So I think that the reduction in the speed limit through this area is just supporting that driver behavior is going to change. You're going to be entering the city having to slow down at Fakima Road.
Thank you. Yeah, and I appreciate your comments of why this was there, because a lot of people, when they think traffic, their first thing is traffic flow. Traffic flow is going to slow things down. There's traffic flow. That's the point, is to slow it down. I mean, as a funeral director, I don't want to serve more fatalities. I think something like this is excellent. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councilmember Stuckey. Councilmember Wittgenstein.
Question about the why 45 and not 40? Because it's going to go to 40 right there by the, where it switches right as you're coming into town where the sign is.
Mm-hmm.
So why not just push it 40 all the way through that intersection?
I don't think I'm revealing too much since I did provide a comment to WashDOT, but that actually initially was my recommendation to them of 40 miles per hour. But again, WashDOT is very data-driven and analysis-heavy, so they could not support that large of a reduction. And they do provide the other side of the coin of if you simply reduce a speed limit sign and don't make physical changes, that it could make situations more dangerous where you have some people complying with the speed, others not. So again, they're putting in a new roundabout. It is changing. They're getting down to 45 miles per hour. They just were not recommending the reduction down to 40.
Thanks for that. And then, yeah, the roundabout absolutely is necessary for slowing down traffic in there. Speed limit zones don't do it as it is. It always just kind of baffled me that the actual speed limit switches at the intersection. It goes from 55 to 50 coming in to end right at Alt Field. That's where the signs are at. So it just never made sense. So I'm glad to hear they're going to push the 45 zone out to Hoffman Road because it makes more sense with that intersection there. So, yeah, it's Highway 20. The state's in charge. We get to just kind of wave and smile, right? Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Wiggins. Yes, Councilmember Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually had the same question as Councilmember Wigginstein is, so I hear the answer that you gave, Alex. It's their recommendation, but it is ultimately our decision, correct? Because it is within city limits?
I am not an expert in that field as authority. We do have an agreement with WashDOT about a state highway as a city street. So we have things in there about maintenance responsibilities. WashDOT did request this ordinance to be completed as part of their project documentation. I would say it's a council decision. That's why I'm here to see if you support this.
Sabrina, should we get Lisa to weigh in on this? Lisa Marshall?
Lisa's on the call.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, loud and clear. Hello?
Hi.
Could you repeat your... Hi.
Yeah, so the question was why we can't, the recommendation by WashDOT is to lower the speed limit to 45 from 50, but council's asking why we can't take it down to 40.
Great question. I would have to defer to your city engineer. I know that cities typically have speed limits at 25 in the city limits unless otherwise controlled by WashDOT, but I'd have to defer to, I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that question. I'm sorry.
So, thank you. So it doesn't make sense to me that we go through the roundabout where we have to go 15 to 20 miles an hour, then we speed up to 45, and we do that for a half mile, 3/4 of a mile, and then at best, and then we have to go back down to 40. And then conversely, we go from 40 to 45 just to slow down again to go 15 to 20 through the roundabout. It would make more sense, in my opinion, that we just make that entire stretch 40. And I'm pretty sure our police department could help kind of with that enforcement portion of it to make sure that people are learning that is the speed limit through that area. And so if we can get some clarity on whether we have that authority to do that, I would support the 40. I mean, I'll do whatever we've got to do, but I would prefer to see it at 40 versus 45. So.
Thank you, Councilmember Marshall. Anybody else? Councilmember Romero.
Yes, from law enforcement experience working traffic, that roundabouts are not a save-all, and so there'll be fatalities even with them occasionally. And I know the one on Highway 20 there near Anacortes, when they put that in, there was a rash of collisions because people enter into them assuming that, well, if the speed limit is such and such, then I can enter into the roundabout at that speed and go through it. And I hate, like I said, I'm not a Darwinist, but you know, the people that survive the training, they've eventually learned to use the roundabout the correct way. So I would say that consistency at say a 40 mile an hour is better than having to make any kind of adjustment. And I'm all in favor of roundabouts, but they're not they're not a cure-all for bad driving.
Thank you, Councilmember Marshall. Sorry, Amaro. Sorry, yes, too many M's over there. We're going to split you guys up. Councilmember Wiesner, did you have your hand up? No, yes? Yes, Councilmember Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm not, I guess, as technically data-driven as the state of Washington. I think I'm a little bit more just common sense. And I've always wondered why we didn't have the speed limit in that area, Facamar Road, reduced to 40 miles an hour. It's been a safety issue. There have been accidents there. There have been fatalities, and we're aware of that. And it just seems to me like a speed limit reduction would have been the first move before putting in a roundabout, quite frankly. So common sense, I'd jump on that 40 mile an hour bandwagon. I think it even makes enforcement harder, and actually you have the issue of drivers not understanding that transition. Reducing 5 miles an hour, speeding up 5 miles an hour, reducing again 5 miles an hour. It makes no common sense either. I think we're onto something with the discussion of making it 40 through there is as our way of dealing with the safety issue out there. Certainly the skinny lanes, make driving much more difficult versus just slowing down. That's my thought.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Wiesner. All right. Anybody else before I make a suggestion? No? Okay. I'm going to suggest then that we get an answer to your guys' question and then bring this back at workshop as an action item. Does that work for staff? Sabrina? Yes? Alex? So you all have your homework?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're not going to do anything tonight, but we will bring it back and do it then.
All right. Thank you.
At the workshop. Thank you. I'm sorry? On which one? We already opened it up for public comment, yeah. No, we're past that. We already opened it up, yeah. So that's okay. The next item is Resolution 2523, adopting the Vision to Action Planning document for the Waterfront District and discussing next steps. And here to introduce that is our Public Works Director, Steve Schuler.
Very good. I know Tim is getting that presentation up. All right, tonight we're here to talk about Resolution 2523, which is adopting the Vision to Action Planning document for the Waterfront District and discussing next steps with the community and with the council. All right, tonight's presentation, I'm going to go over very briefly just to give you an update on the grant and the environmental cleanup that has been conducted and the studies we've been doing down on the property on Pioneer. And then Norman Wright with the Center for Creative Land Recycling is give an update on our public outreach and on the Vision to Action Plan. And then it'll come back to me at the end just to talk, again, very briefly about next steps and get council's direction on each of those steps. The Oak Harbor community has repeatedly demonstrated its commitment to revitalizing downtown, as you know. And decade after decade, there's been massive investment, a lot of community input, plan after plan to move this process forward. So this has been a big item for the city for really like 4 decades. All right, again, very briefly, we had some private property on Pioneer. The private marketplace was struggling with it. One of the key things we heard was because of this environmental contamination. It was a big unknown. It was a former gas station. There was a known dry cleaners across the street. And so for decades, the private market struggled. So the city stepped in, and we were awarded 2 different grants, $200,000 from our Washington State Department of Ecology for what's called a Brownsfield grant, and that's 2 things. That's one to help study the contamination, but it's also to look at redevelopment of the area. They want to see both done as part of that grant. The other one is through the Center for Creative Land Recycling, who's been a wonderful partner with us, and that's through the U.S. EPA, and that was about $100,000 in services. And combined, those add up to 96% of this $300,000 effort was grant funded, and only 4% was locally funded. Council last year approved 3 agreements to move that process forward, and then in January of this year, we worked with council and developed a public outreach plan that included 3 very well-attended public workshops, a Chamber of Commerce luncheon and presentation, a project web page that's been up now for many, many months, several news releases and social media posts, lots of engagement there, and several local news media stories that have been in the Whidbey News Times and others. All right, so in broad terms, when we talk about the waterfront district, we're talking about the triangle that is 3-sided, and so the harbor's on one side, Midway Boulevard is roughly on the other side, and then SR20 is on the other. Within that larger area, there's the waterfront, or the closer you get to the water. There's downtown, there's midtown, different things, but this is broadly what we talk about the term. All right, just an update on the environmental cleanup. You can see a red dot here and kind of a purple dot that are up by Pioneer Way. You've seen this graph before. There is soil contamination about 10 feet below the ground surface in both locations, of petroleum contamination. It's no surprise. Since we talked to you, we have conducted 4 groundwater samplings over 4 different quarters, and all of those have come below the Model Toxic Control Act. So that's the good news. We do not have any contamination in the groundwater for over a year, and that's really good news for us. This is big news because if you're trying to develop this property or do anything with it, us going out there and doing this work really takes a lot of that fear factor and a lot of those unknowns out of the equation. Right now where we are is we have a draft feasibility study that we've given to Ecology. We expect that back from them sometime by the end of the year, could extend into 2026. That would not be unusual. But in that draft feasibility study, we talk about at least 2 different alternatives. And so going forward, what we would probably do is work with a private developer, give them that draft feasibility study in whatever stage it is, or final feasibility study, and then work with them on how that gets moved forward. And that can happen in a number of different ways. And again, I just give you a graph that's got all the different numbers on it. But again, we have that full remedial investigation. Anytime the community or the council wants to reach out and go through any of these components that we studied and that we sampled for, let us know. All right, and now we're going to turn it over to Norman Wright, who's online, and he's, again, going to talk about our public engagement and the Vision to Action Plan. Mr. Wright?
All right, thank you, Steve, and thank you, Mayor and members of council, for the opportunity to be with you tonight for this agenda item. As the photo on this slide suggests, we had excellent turnout at every event, like Steve said. Kudos to Maggie Aguilar for her outreach efforts with our counterpart, Eugene Altawara, for keeping people aware and involved in the process. The great level of attendance that we got allowed us to get precisely the sort of feedback that we needed to refine the vision that exists into something that's more responsive. Responsive in this case means basically doing the following: finding from the community the preferences, the wishes, the concerns, the needs that could reach a simple majority of what people want to see with this new vision in the future. And so we very seldom and never expect to achieve anything beyond that simple majority. It's very rare to find a unanimous, broad consensus on visions and plans that carry this level of detail and scale. Instead, what we tend to find is that as more people get more information and take on more discussion through these workshops, they take a more nuanced view. They begin to see more trade-offs, in other words, of where and how the best ideas can often be acceptable, sometimes great, but never perfect. There's always going to be some give and take. And so if we can go to the next slide, I'll try to give you a sense of what that means. So we engage the community in our workshops through a series of polls and surveys and questions that surround the information that we introduce, from the existing vision to the analysis of that vision to all other manner of topics that then stem forward from that. As you can see, we have 4 statements here that we tested with the community during the engagement process. And in this slide, you can see that you have numbers here associated with each of these statements. If there is ever a number that is a 3 out of 5 on a 5-point scale, that would mean total ambivalence, which we never really see. We usually see a lean one way or the other in the direction of agreement or disagreement with the statements that you see here. So, for example, in the very first statement, where we say, as of now, Oak Harbor can't support this level of growth and thrive, we see a slight lean towards disagreement. The community, when engaged on this question, says, as of now, no, Oak Harbor cannot support the level of growth that is expected and thrive. And that level of growth, by the way, is something connected to your comprehensive planning effort, where over the next 20 years, Oak Harbor is projected to receive over 13,000 new residents. 13,000 new residents in 20 years. So some things need to change to support that kind of growth, that's indicated by that initial response to that initial statement. Now, where and how does that change occur? People recognize in the next three statements that for the growth to be supported in the most sustainable way fashion, in the most sustainable way possible, that Oak Harbor would need to make major policy changes, they would have to make major infrastructure improvements, and that the waterfront itself could be a major cornerstone for fostering that growth in a sustainable manner. Sustainable in this sense means fostering the growth in the way that fits that triple bottom line of creating long-term social benefit, environmental benefit, and economic benefit. So let's go to the next slide. As we start to see people understand that there needs to be some change, that change can occur around the waterfront as an area to support that growth, we explored the implications through a three-dimensional model. Two of them, in fact. One was a design model to see where and how the waterfront area that was our focus would develop over time, and also to see how that development would create impacts on everything from trips that it would generate, to jobs it would create, to housing that would be necessary to support many of those 13,000 new residents. And so when looking at those models, the community was favorable overall with the balanced mix of a commercial, office, hotel, and residential use mix type. They were also favorable with the scale of the development that they saw. Again, it wasn't a full unanimous support, but there was enough support to make this a responsive plan that could reflect the general sentiment from the community. And then finally, people saw how the waterfront, through the vision that's been refined over this plan, could be a cornerstone for the sustainable development that's going to be needed over these next 20 years of change and growth that's ahead. Let's go to the next slide, please. Finally, two more slides really on the engagement and the communication with the community. Here we ask about people's thoughts about how the waterfront could really become an important part of the overall strategy to support all the growth that's going on in those 20 years. And people largely supported that, saw that the waterfront was definitely going to be a cornerstone for that type of support. And they especially appreciated, I think, in our conversations at the workshop, how not only would this waterfront area be a way to redirect growth, it would also be a way to spark reinvestment in an area where there's existing infrastructure, existing businesses, and tremendous potential for more for those businesses as well as for additional ancillary economic activity that could surround it. Next slide, please. And then finally, when thinking about this vision and what it could do for people tomorrow, for their needs, whether or not they lived at the waterfront or specifically in that area or had a business, there were still many more needs and preferences that people had just as residents of the community. And when thinking about those needs and preferences, we saw a very clear set of priorities that emerged. Three particular priorities here for walkable streets throughout the waterfront, a vibrant series of public plazas that surround the waterfront, people having a place to walk as well as rest, visit, as well as tour the area. And then people wanted to see that the waterfront would have the type of environment that would support all of our needs for living, working, and playing right there. And so if we go to our next slide, our idea was to create this plan in a way that would really emphasize all 7 of those key themes of the previous slide, but put together particularly a set of near and mid-term actions for implementation that Steve will talk about that could really deliver on those top 3 priorities as quickly and as effectively as possible. That's going to require a lot of steps, as Steve will mention, but the point is that this plan really does culminate in community-led prioritization of these themes with robust analysis from our capacity model, from our economic analysis by Cascadia Partners, iterative design from yours truly doing some 3D modeling, but before that, from the Dahlin Group providing detailed, evocative renderings that refine the old and really lovely, but black and white 20-year-old visuals that have been a very important part of this. They brought those greater into life with their work and their iterative designs. They created that clarified vision of what people would want to see more of, and then the proven strategies for success in the next step, the action part of this vision. One more slide from me here. We'll go to the next one. So the key insights for action that we're going to focus on from the plan itself that Steve will talk about, those things include policy changes, zoning amendments, for example, placemaking strategies that were particularly a focal point at workshop number 3 when we started to think about how to put this vision into action with Cascadia partners, incentive programs, as well as development offerings that could be potentially useful for the catalytic sites at Pioneer Drive. And so that is the plan in a nutshell. And then I'll turn it back to Steve for the remainder of the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. And so lastly, we just want to talk about 5 next steps and get your initial input. One, we want to finish the site cleanup. And again, as I mentioned before, our next step is to get comments back from the State Department of Ecology on the draft feasibility study. That's not a cleanup, but that's just the recommended approaches to the cleanup and alternatives on how to do that. We expect that sometime back by the end of the year. That could extend into 2026, depending upon Ecology's review and how much back and forth there are. Next, and we're going to have a couple of slides on this, but again, this is a visioning document. This is not planning and design. This is ahead of that. And so updated zoning, design, parking code, that comes after this. And that'll typically go through your planning commission, code section by code section, word by word. There is a lot of work ahead. This does not complete that work by any means. This only helps kind of energize the community. I hopefully will see that because we've done this vision to action plan, that this drives a lot more interest in coming to those planning commission meetings, which can tend to be very wonky and dry, if any of you have attended those, and I know many of you have. But that's the idea, just to get people excited about this, realize this, that there is something for them to come and provide that input. And so that'll happen over the next year or 2 or 3 as we go through each of those code sections, again, word by word. We want to look into launching a development offering for some catalyst sites downtown. So even as we go through those code sections, when I went to the Urban Land Institute, I said, when is the time to approach private developers? They said, now. You don't want to wait till you have your planning commission go change your code and spend 2 years doing that and then have developers come and tell you, that was a horrible idea. That's not going to work in the private marketplace. You want to bring them in as early as possible. The earlier, the better, to help inform those so that you're really moving forward. You're not spinning your wheels, spending a lot of time and energy going down a wrong path. We want to invest in placemaking, and we've got an example of that. And we want to complete the engineering plans, which we're required to do, and that's something we want to move forward for sure. So just to give you a quick example, here's one of the renderings that we did as part of the Vision to Action Plan. And this came up as part of, this was not normally going to be part of the visioning, but this came out of the community input that we received. A lot of folks came to us and said, wait a second, what about West Pioneer between SR20 and City Beach? That's just sitting there. It looks like it's ripe for redevelopment, right? There's a building that's for sale there. It's mostly an empty parking lot. As part of the comprehensive plan, the city proposed this area as an area that could take some of that additional growth. And so it all kind of came together. And so we wanted to show people right away, here is what a rendering would look like. As the council already knows, 20-something years ago, the city council and the planning commission already approved 5-story buildings in our downtown. And so there's a 55-foot limit. And so part of that is, what if that 55-foot limit was in this area? Could that help take some of that growth pressure? And as Mr. Wright said, could that help invigorate this area and create more business in areas that already have key infrastructure? And that's really important. But as you go deeper, as we start to go forward and do these utility and transportation comp plans, you can see that's just a one-sided rendering, right? Here's the massing diagram that's behind that, and you can see both sides. This is Pioneer Way. That roundabout there is SR 20 and Pioneer. So you're looking towards City Beach, and now you can see 4 or 5-story buildings on each side. We're going to be in the process of putting together water, sewer, stormwater, and transportation comprehensive plans. We don't want to rip that water line up, as we've mentioned, 20 years from now. We want that water line to last 100 years. So beyond your 2045 planning. And we want as much information, and we're going to take as best guess as we can of what it's going to be to live in Oak Harbor 100 years from now. Because again, we want them to still be using, as an example, the same water pipe, and for that to be a good investment. And as you start to dive even deeper, and again, these are very conceptual, you can see just a very conceptual rendering from SketchUp and things like that of a roundabout, and we have $30 million coming from the state in the 27-29 biennium. They have $6 million for permitting and design for Oak Harbor. So this is going to become very real. What are those roads going to be? What are they studying? What problem are they trying to solve? So we've got a couple of years to really do our best job of trying to guess what it's going to be to look like to live in Oak Harbor in the year 2045. All right, just a quick update for you. Some of you have already seen this, but the state, and I'll just say it very bluntly, the state has been very frustrated. I'm trying to speak for all the state, which is difficult, but this is how people have summed it up. The state has been very frustrated with local governments in your ability to produce housing. There's a lot of demand, as you know, to do a better job. They felt like, you know, as local governments have resisted additional housing in their communities and pushed that away. And so they're, as the big brother, big sister, they have been, over the last several legislative sessions, taking that authority away from local governments, taking that authority away from local councils, and they've been adopting, for example, Senate Bill 5184. For cities that are over 30,000 population, which again, we're about 25,000 now within our time frame, we're going to go past 30,000, so this will be part of it. There is no parking required. Cities cannot require any parking for any residence that is under 1,200 square feet, and that's most apartment complexes. You can require no parking. Can't require parking for commercial under 3,000 square feet. You can't require it for affordable housing, for senior housing, for childcare. You get one parking space for single-family homes. Can't require any more. And so there's a lot of exemptions and other things to dive into. Now, a key thing to say about this is a developer, the private market, can determine how much. It doesn't keep them from building whatever they deem is appropriate. So if a developer is building 100 units and they want to put in 200 parking spaces, they can do that. But the city can't require them to do that. Does that make sense? And again, I know there'll be a lot more. You will hear a lot about this from your planning department in the coming months and years. All right, we just wanted to give you a couple examples so you can just see them ahead of time. Again, way ahead of time of what it would be like to launch an opportunity for a developer to partner with the city on any one of our sites that we have downtown or elsewhere in the waterfront district. And so here's one from Bellingham. I included one from Kirkland, included one from Vancouver. And again, they're all a little different. So I tried to give you just kind of a mix, but there's literally hundreds of these that you could review as you want. But I just wanted you to see how that process works, so that's not a mystery to you as that idea comes up. All right, the Main Street Association has met with Ray Lindenberg and I, and we've talked about this with Sabrina and the mayor. They want to meet again. We're meeting with them again on Thursday. They want to do some placemaking now, just like we kind of heard from the pickleball folks. They're very excited about the long-term plans, but they want some solutions now. They want to meet with us now on Pioneer between SR 20 and City Beach. They want to create some ways that they can really do some improvements on that road to really bring people in and to improve that now and do it in a cost-effective way, knowing that we're working on this long-range plan. And they want to do it in a way that matches, that helps influence and brings people, and people can start to understand that larger plan. So we don't know what that means yet, but they got a number of very excited volunteers as part of their design committee. And again, we're going to have our second meeting on Thursday. And we'll bring that information to you when we get when we get some of the options nailed down. And then lastly, we want to move forward, as we've mentioned to you before. We gave you a draft request for proposals for consultants, planning and engineering consultants, to do those comprehensive plans. Love to get any feedback from you tonight. We'll get your feedback, and then we plan on issuing those this next month and getting those consultants on board. Just as an example, you can see all of the, I think it's 27 cities and 5 counties in Western Washington, and Oak Harbor is the last one on the traffic impact fee. And the reason for that is that we haven't touched it in 25 years. And so just inflation has caught up, and so now we're the last of last. Not for any good reason, not really for policy decision, but just because it hasn't really been addressed. So that's just a key area that we need to, you can see there's going to be a lot of work as we go through these older plans, and there's going to be a lot of changes. All right, here's just a rough schedule. So again, this fall, we plan to issue an RFP for the utility and transportation comprehensive plans. This winter, we again hope to complete the feasibility study, which will give the alternatives for the environmental cleanup. We expect the work on those comprehensive plans to take about 2 years. So we will come back to you many times, but you won't see probably final drawings till sometime late 2027. And then, you know, just to give you a sense, if we went through a normal public-private partnership, you wouldn't see a building opened till 2031 or later. But of course, there's ways to speed that up. There's ways to slow that down. And then, is that building meeting our greater vision, or is it just meeting what the current code is now? That, you know, all those things are going to happen as we move forward. The one thing we are seeing that I just want to end with is we are seeing that developers have, quote, we're already been discovered. Developers are already, the private market is proposing, they're already meeting with our development services group, and they want to move these projects through. You've already seen in our local newspapers proposals for 4-story buildings in our downtown. So that marketplace is here. Of course, we're in, you know, there's always something going on with interest rates or tariffs or things like that. But those developers are spending real money, and they're coming to the city, and they want to move forward, and they want to see some of these code changes happen. So that's the good news at this point, is that that pressure, so to speak, is happening. So we have that private investment. We want to work with the council to make sure that when that private investment does come to Oak Harbor, that you're proud of how that all works together. Because I think the worst thing we could do is not have a plan, and then we get some of that development, and it just makes things a mess instead of really creating something that we'd be proud of. And back to our last slide. So tonight is about approving Resolution 2023, which is approving the Oak Harbor Vision to Action Planning document. And that's tonight's action. And Norman Wright is still online, I can see, and so am I, to answer your questions.
Great, thanks, Steve. I will first confirm that we received no public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No public comments were received. We have one individual that signed up to speak on this issue.
Great.
Hi, I'm Brad Gluth. I'm with Corridors Ventures. I'm the project manager. We own the Alfie's building and parking lot, and we own most of the grass where the carnivals, Hydros for Heroes, the RV parking for the Music Fest. We had a Oktoberfest down there where a lot of city events happen, and it abuts the city's property that was discussed just now. I'm not prepared tonight because I did not know about this. I'm a busy person. I feel I'm a stakeholder. Nobody contacts me and says, hey, we're working through this plan, you're a major stakeholder. Can we inform you or let you know there's a meeting? Here's 182 pages of stuff to read. So I tried to read it tonight after work. I have comments about parking. We have to decide what we want to be as a town. I did a parking study for the city as an employee. I was one of the engineers for 17.5 years. A planner, Ethan Spoo, and I did a parking study when I was the architect to revise the street geometry code. Kathy Rosen, former public works director, was also part of it. We drove around, counted parking, looked at where people were adding driveways illegally, looked at where people were parking on sidewalks. We went down to Snohomish County, looked at new neighborhoods that did not provide enough parking. What we saw was cars parked on sidewalks, blocking entire sidewalks through whole neighborhoods. Nobody in a wheelchair could get by. It was violating the American Disabilities Act. And I think the local communities down there with those new developments just threw their hands up. What are we going to do? There's no parking. So people rebelled. We had that happen in town here at one of the projects years ago when Patty Cohen was mayor. People rebelled and fire chief had to get involved, and it was months of duress. So I think we have to be careful about saying we're not going to require a minimum set of parking or adopting this thing about the 30,000 population. The type of person, we have military people here. A lot of them go buy new cars. There's a lot of young people, that's one of the first things to make a major expenditure on. Sometimes you see houses with 5, 6 cars there. I think we have to be careful about saying, people are going to use scooters and stuff like that, and they're going to use transit, because it's usually somebody with a car wants somebody else to use the scooter or the transit. They don't want to get rid of their own car. And I suspect a lot of people drove here in their own car. That's a big concern for me, and that was a big concern at workshop number 2. There was a lot of public comment about parking, and there were people who said, I won't go downtown. It's hilly, it's windy. If I can't park, it's all taken up. I just won't go down there and shop. Like I said, to skip through all 182 pages or something, but affordability of this project. On page 54, under incentives, the statement is, as stated before, 5-story mixed-use development is expensive, and the current rent rates in Oak Harbor do not provide a prospective builder with much confidence that they can recoup their investment. The Cascadia Group in Cascadia Consultant, not the Cascadia Music Group, in workshop 3, which wasn't a workshop, it was a presentation. We were not allowed to have interaction during that presentation. It was a PowerPoint presentation.
So, Mr. Gluth, I need you to start wrapping up because your time's up.
So they said it's $3 to $4 a square foot residential. So 1,000 square foot apartments, $3 to $4 grand under this. They also use the word infeasible, and then they came up with incentives that the incentives are minor. They would have to heavily tip the scale to shift somebody who can't fund it, can't make a profit with the high risk, the very expensive soft costs of engineering, planning, architecture, biologists, etc. The construction costs, insurance have soared recently. Labor's tight. The California wildfires cause an issue with labor. Insurance has already contacted, said, hey, it's going up. We're raising this on you. I just had to revise the construction cost estimate for our project. It's going up. What I'm getting to is, if this is going to be mandatory, if we're going to say, well, right now it's not mandatory, but we're going to go down the road and we're going to pass all these codes and say, you got to do 5 stories, you got to have all these shops and restaurants, it's not going to be feasible. You need some flexibility and let the developer have some power over what they build. Right now, I've been told it won't be mandatory, but that's for now. And I've heard different things from different staff members.
All right. Well, I'm going to cut you off there because I've let you go over. I appreciate you coming in and talking. And what I would encourage you to do would be to be a part of those planning commission meetings to where you can continue to come in and advocate what your concerns are and let them hear what your concerns are.
Can I be put on the stakeholders list since we own over 3 acres of the waterfront? Is there a stakeholders
I don't
list?
have a stakeholders list.
That's normal process for these things. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years, and most big projects have stakeholders lists. Where they,
I'm not questioning you. I'm just saying I don't have a stakeholders list.
Can we create one, please?
I will have a conversation with my staff. Yes. Thank you again. Is there anybody else that would like to step forward and make comment at this time? All right. Hearing none, I will turn it over to council for their questions and comments. Yes, Councilmember Stuckey.
Couple of things I just want to reiterate that I have a question or two. One, renderings are awesome to get people excited and talking. It certainly has done that, but I wanted to assure everybody, a rendering does not mean this is what's going to happen this far in advance. But it's easy to get those things in the media and then, oh my gosh, well, hold on, this is just making the conversation, which it does, and it was successful. It's also, as you pointed out, not going to be fast. A lot of people see these things and think, man, next year we're going to have a whole new waterfront. No. I followed it a little bit. House Bill 5184. So right now we're at 25,000. We're going to grow. But when we hit 30,000, as this bill is, we cannot have a parking requirement, correct?
Yeah, and again, I have a lot of background in this area, but I would not consider myself to be an expert in this area. And so, again, as you work with your planning department, they can provide answers to some of those. As I recall off the top of my head, if you're a city over 30,000, you have a couple years to implement this. So I think it's 2027, if I'm guessing off the top of my head, that even if we were, let's say we were 30,001 person right now today, we'd still have 2 years to talk about this, implement it. And so, again, they're trying to do that. I would caution, though, that I can see, at least in the last 5 years, that the state legislature, every time they've met, it may change, but they're doubling down. Now, again, they may slow down, but they tend to then get really excited and fine-tune this even more, right? Because they want to see action on creating affordable housing in this area. So you're right. So how that would work is, you're right. If, one, we're not under 30,000 right now, and we'd have time to do it. And so how, it certainly, I shouldn't say too much because I'm not an expert, but we're going to go through this comp plan process. So this is beyond that, right? This is going to be another stage in a future year before that becomes a real issue for us. But it's something to be on our radar and something to watch at the state legislature.
But there will look, I mean, I gave a quick look over the House bill again before this meeting. There will be a day where we will reach a population if things don't change the way this bill is. The state's just going to say there isn't a parking requirement. So even though we're as a city right now, I mean, there's grandfathering in, there will be a day where there's not going to be a parking requirement. It's not going to come from the city. It's going to come from the state, and we won't really have a choice.
Yeah, and I think there's a funny story where I think when it initially came out, it was much smaller than 30,000, and I think it was a mayor from Washougal, the way these things work out in their committees, right? And I don't want to blame Washougal if it wasn't them, but it was a smaller city that had concerns about this, and so last minute in committee it got changed to 30,000, and here's what we have today. But again, I think the key thing is this is a continued ongoing thing at the state, and we just need to be aware of that and keep tuned with it.
And so I guess my last question, which I've asked before, but I just always, maybe I'm going to ask it in a different way. There was a drawing that showed downtown Pioneer and what it could look like. I mean, very rough. We have the property that we own. We control that property. And we can put in different codes and things for in the future how things need to be. I mean, we have right now, if you have a residence, certain codes of how basic how it has to look and things like that. Very basic. But there's still owners of those businesses on Pioneer. Some of them don't live here. They just own and rent. I mean, they're under no obligation to all of a sudden demolish their building and get on board. We only control R1. I mean, is the thought we do something wonderful as one, build it, and they will follow? I mean, they may not. How do we encourage those that have property? I mean, do they just pass away, someone inherits it, and they're like, oh, we'll develop. How do we get those businesses that we do not control, that are private property, to start to go with our plan?
That's a great question, and I'm probably not the one to answer that. But you're right, that's a question for as you start to talk about economic development and that sort of thing on how you move this forward.
Okay. Fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Stuckey. Councilmember Marion.
This plan, or some things very similar to it, is necessary to get the wheels moving to get us to a point where we're dealing with the increase in population and hopefully the increase in commerce. And I would say that this structure is necessary, but as number of people have said over the months and years, the property owners have the final say on what they're going to be doing with their property. All this to point out, though, that we have to start somewhere. And I affirm that this plan is a good starting point, but it is not a coercive threat, okay? It is not a case of Big Brother ramrodding through a process for the citizens to swallow, because landowners have their legal rights, but of course they have to operate within the code. And The code adjustment piece is another separate matter, but what I can say is that we have to start somewhere, and I think this is a good starting point. And I will echo, with regard to the parking and the matter of cars, that we have to be cognizant of the fact that a large proportion of our economy is based on people who come to this town. And they don't come on scooters, and they don't ride bicycles. They come here to enjoy the town, and if they come and they have no place to put their vehicles, it's going to be a tremendous disincentive. It is a reminder, though, that the state government Washington state government has the capacity to be, quote, the big brother, because all local governments are a creature of the state, 100% of them. And just as soon as you think as a city that you're going to go do this, or even as a county, the lights go on and you get a call from Olympia and say, by some administrative bureaucrat, what are you going to do? You're not doing that. You know, you're going to do what we tell you to do. And so, in conclusion, with regard to that matter, the administrative structure in Olympia and all the related administrative bureaucracies are driven by interest groups who have huge financial stakes in the outcomes going a certain way. And some of it's driven by ideology, but a large amount of it's deal with profitability. And so I wanted to make sure that I stated on record that this is not, that this fact is not going to be, missed in meeting. So I think it's great that people can do contracting and make money and make even lots of money, but the idea of people coming to our town and driving up on the sidewalks to park to go to an event of which they came, from Spokane, I mean, that just is untenable to me. So I use that just as a matter of record, not that it's going to address this particular thing, but we need a starting place, and this is certainly a good starting place.
Oh, good. And I probably, going back to Councilmember Stuckey's questions and then your comments, Councilmember Morrow, Mr. Wright, could you maybe just with your experience in working with over many different states, maybe just kind of address that kind of two-pronged question from your perspective about, the economic development piece, and then also how each individual private landowner, has its rights to do what they want, and to do it when they want to do it. And if they want to keep what they have, they can do that. If they want to move forward, they have to meet the current code. But then how do cities, help get all those, groups together and really move this vision forward?
Yeah, certainly, Steve. Happy to address that in a brief response here. So, like Steve mentioned, as a consultant, I work in many places across the country, large cities like Honolulu, smaller places with a population of 1,100 in Palouse, Washington right now. Prior to that, I was the Community Development Director and Planning Director for Salem, Oregon, for Adams County, Colorado, Community Economic Development Director there, which is the metro county where DIA is when you fly into Denver. It's a large county of 500,000. And then also Greenville, South Carolina, and a town south of Nashville of about 37,000 people, right on the outskirts. In every single place, every single one of these communities, city or county, faces these same kind of dynamics where a vision is put forward by the community for the community over the course, in some cases. You're a rarity of having a vision that has been relatively intact for 20 years. That's not typically the case, but in every case, as has been said, it is just that, it's a vision. The next three things that have to occur are reflected over the pages starting on page 52 of the Vision to Action Plan in workshop number 3, where we start to outline some of the key things that have to occur from a policy standpoint, that placemaking standpoint, and then the incentives component. And so, as Mr. Galuth mentioned earlier, some parts of this vision don't pencil out. Incentives, whether it be economic development incentives for recruiting businesses or incentive packages to induce multifamily housing developments, there are certain packages, incentives, programs that can help close the gap between what is possible and profitable versus what is necessary to build some of this vision. And a big plan and that vision gives the city the impetus and the critical mass it needs to feel confident in creating those programs and then administering them. Placemaking, which is that other part that I mentioned a second ago, that's going to be very critical for all the things from, say, the highlights of what Steve mentioned earlier from the Main Street investments to other components of placemaking that need to occur to help really further attract more tourism, more activity, and the walkable streets that can bring more people from the surrounding adjacent neighborhoods. The point is, whether it be incentive packages or placemaking, the city, through a vision like this, will have the confidence that it needs to then start to develop programs, develop improvements and investments that can then induce and attract some investment, particularly catalytic investment, when those projects otherwise don't pencil out perfectly, to then get the momentum going. It's all about momentum. In Salem, Oregon, I could go on and on about this, but there we got to see a lot of vacant buildings converted into 5-8-story buildings through this combination of placemaking and incentive packages. And with more time, I'd explain how that occurs and how it's effective and is a win-win for the community because it fits that vision, and for that property owner because it helps them meet the demands of their pro forma. Finally, on the policy end, whether it's state initiated policies that you're going to be facing in the future, or your own policies that you should consider as you look ahead with the comprehensive plan and this vision, any policy changes that help make this vision a reality are going to be crucial, because there are a lot of plans out there in places where even I was a director, where we had a vision, but the policies actually prohibited sizable parts of it. And so you would be surprised, or at least I have been, how many times just getting alignment between the policies and the vision will actually allow a lot of this development to emerge voluntarily, without any of the forceful sort of top-down approach that some people may be fearing. I've never seen that approach actually initiated anywhere. I've only seen the bottom-up of careful capital improvement investments, as well as great placemaking, some reasonable, sensible, beneficial economic development incentive packages and programs, and then this rightful alignment of policy and vision. So that's sort of a nutshell. I wish I could give more case study on it, but I guess my point is that you're faced in a dilemma that I've seen literally across the country and in every place. It does take time, and it does take these three levers to pull on, to say nothing about the great opportunity you have with the properties that you actually do already own.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
All right, so are there any more questions from council? Questions or comments? Councilmember Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. Steve, can you talk about the RFP for the Master Infrastructure Utility and Transportation Comp Plans? Is that something that, as a council, we've already funded? Do we have an idea what those costs would be?
Yes, and so as part of your current biennium budget, you've already funded it.
Okay.
So it's already funded. It comes from various different sources, right? So we have the water fund for the water piece, the stormwater fund for the stormwater fund, on and on and on. Same with the transportation. So all those come together, and so the total is about $930,000 to do that work. And again, that's about typically at least 2 years worth of work for us to get through that. In the cities that I've worked for before, it's always a huge uphill battle because there's just a lot changing, and you're not trying to catch up with the past. You know what I mean? So in a lot of jurisdictions, you look at your plan, you're like, we're trying to still catch up from what we did in the 1980s and 1990s. But you're trying to guess what the city's going to look like in the year 2055. And in the best case scenario, you've got, a development services department that has a very clear vision, and an administration and a council are totally on the same page, and a community that's exactly on the same page. And they said, this is exactly what we want to look like in the year 2026. And maybe you might get someone that might have a clear vision to 2029, right? And it's really hard to look past that. And the amount of change that has happened just in Western Washington. And so all those components are going to come together, but especially in Oak Harbor, all those plans have massive changes that have to happen. And so it's going to be a very big uphill battle. It's going to take a lot of work from all the different departments within the city to put these together, and it's going to come back to council over and over again, and there's going to be a big, long, huge reports that we will try to do a good job of working with you to really get those key policies decisions made as part of that. Sorry for that long answer, but I think it's worth the detail.
No, that's great. I appreciate that. And then just to be clear, these plans are not just strictly to that, being restricted to that triangle area that you referred to, but this is a citywide planning.
Thank you. That's an excellent question, Councilmember Marshall. You're right. This is citywide. If we did nothing with the waterfront district, we have to do these anyway. We're required to do the water one from the Department of Health, just to give you an example. We're required to do the sewer one with the Department of Ecology. And so these are all out of date. We had to ask for example, Department of Health for an extension, saying we're working on our comp plans. You're right. These are citywide. So this will include our urban growth areas. We're going to have to assume what's going to happen in those. This is going to include those islands of unincorporated county. We're going to have to make some assumptions. When someone goes and builds a water line, again, we want it to last 100 years. So I guess maybe just to add on to that question that you had, to me, this is an amazing 2 years and scary years to be at the city. Mm-hmm. And so I was trying to think, what's an analogy, right? And then I was looking up, and they had Steve Jobs in 2007 announcing the iPhone. And it's like, that was just 2007? That wasn't that long ago. I can't even imagine how life existed before the Apple had their smartphone, right? And Google had its Android. But I mean, we are at a place, and I was thinking of the Navy, right? We are going to be building, we have an old aircraft carrier, right, as a bad analogy or a good one, and it's done. And we need to build a new aircraft carrier. And once we build it, it's pretty much done. Now there's going to be new plane technology, there's going to be new drones, there's going to be new electronics that's going to be put on that ship, right? But we are in the process of taking a city that's 75, 80 years old, and we're really going to focus over these next years of saying, what does that city look like for the entire city, including the waterfront district? And we're going to come up with the plans that tell the developers and these private industry, over the next 10 years, what is the infrastructure they have to build? Because once they build it, we're pretty much stuck with it. That's the key thing, I think, that's not well understood. When people say, why is there no sidewalks in front of my house? That was the policy at the time, right? It met the policy of what the community wanted at the time, and they said, that's it. So it's a big moment in time. It's a big, wonderful time to be at the city, because it really is going to be about developing this next 75 to 100-year vision and putting those details into place, down to the size of the water line on the exact block by block.
So you mentioned why, I guess why I'm going to support this. So I don't know if you recall when we started this process a couple years, I said that I thought it was a pipe dream, but I was really impressed by the work that Mr. Wright and his team did, the engagement, the thoughtfulness, yes. Some of the conclusions support what we've been doing over the last few years in terms of multifamily tax exemption, working on that. Just a number of the components are in there, just kind of reinforce what we've been working towards. But you nailed it, that it's our responsibility to plan for the future. Whether this is not a roadmap of how we're going to get it done necessarily. I mean, these conceptual drawings, as Councilmember Stuckey mentioned, they're just that. They're conceptual, but that is not what we have to build out. But if we don't determine what we want our city to look like, if we don't determine the vision of our city, where some of these things are going to go, how it's going to be placed, and we get a mishmash of things. And so I like the idea of developing a concept of this is what we want our city to be, and this is where we're going to build it out. And this is, we've talked a lot about the waterfront because we own those two parcels, but it's not limited just to the waterfront. You mentioned that entire triangle, and that is one of our most opportunistic corridors, right, where we can develop that triangle area, and that's kind of really our central business area. It's the opportunity to create more housing, walkable areas, and such. And so I'm excited about the possibility of what this could look like, and working with developers and working with stakeholders to make sure that we're creating, the best community for us. And so I appreciate your passion on this and bringing this forward, and look forward to continuing to develop this project out.
Councilmember Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and Councilmember Marshall, stated a lot of things that I was going to state, but the reality is it all starts with a plan, right? And we're either the leaders of that plan or we're the followers of that plan. We've talked many years about intentional economic development, and what does that mean? Well, intentional economic development means, as a city, that we take the lead in that vision, right? Which is exactly what's happening here. And I just want to point out very quickly some communities around us that have done something similar. Grafton Place in Burlington, on Burlington Boulevard. It was a developed property, had long-term tenants, had a roughly 10,000, 12,000 square foot building on it that was occupied. But the city had a vision, right, and came up with a similar plan in which they talked about 5-story buildings, commercial on the bottom floor, residential on the upper floor. And they did some of the homework to allow a developer to see that it was doable, right? The city did the homework to figure out, what infrastructure was going to have to be put in place by that developer, by the way, and what that could possibly look like. And then the Piazza came along and built it. And they tore down a piece of property that was utilized, but the developers saw the potential in the redevelopment of that property. And the same's gone on with Anacortes. If you go down commercial in Anacortes, it all started with one small building here, and then another one there, and then Savvy Bank, and then the Kelly Lang building, and then the building down, redeveloping down. In fact, they're getting ready to redevelop the entire far end of commercial. They're tearing down several thousands of square feet of building that was previously occupied. They're tearing it down and they're redeveloping it to a higher and better use. But the city had to come up with the rules and the regulations to allow that to happen. The city had to come up with the long-range plan of, if this happens, what infrastructure do we need built out, and how is that going to then collaborate with future development. And the reality is, this is what we're doing. We're taking the lead, which is what our job is, right? To come out with that vision, with that plan, because without a plan, all we're doing is just hoping something happens. And I agree that it may not, inevitably, it may not look exactly like what we're putting out there. We're not necessarily telling a developer, this is what you have to build here, but what we're saying is we're going to accommodate the codes and the infrastructure and the work it takes to build something like this. And the reality is, in my mind, once something like that starts to happen, we're going to see other properties around it that are underdeveloped redevelop. And I think that's how it works. And quite frankly, that's how it's worked in many communities around us, and currently in communities right next door to us that are very similar size to us. So, I've obviously been a big supporter of this. I was a big supporter of the purchase of these properties because I saw the potential for us to be able to pick them up far below market rate, and then turn this into something more, right? Turn this into this exact discussion, right? Let's face it, if the city didn't have the property, we probably wouldn't be having a lot of this discussion, because what do? You have a discussion about a firm piece of property where you can actually put these drawings down, or you just draw pie in the sky stuff. By by having these properties, it led to this discussion. It led to the city taking the lead and coming up with a plan. And I think this is exactly what we need to do as city leaders, and continue to think ahead. I'm really excited. I got to tell you, Mr. Schuler, you just briefly glanced on it, but I am really excited about the redevelopment of West Pioneer Way, and some of the conversations we've had about how that is going to change the look of that end of town when coming down the highway. And you're gonna want to either go straight when you're coming from the south, you're gonna want to turn left when you're coming from the north, by creating a more friendly looking environment. And again, that's all part of that grand plan. What is the vision? And if we're not the ones creating that vision, or at least creating the regulations to allow that vision to take place, then who is? And so, I can't be any more on board with the fact that we're laying these visions and these plans out. Ultimately, the developers are the ones who are going to speak. But if we don't take that lead, why would they even come here and engage us? Where would the conversation even start if we weren't thinking about rules and codes and this large vision? How does it need to be created? Because that's exactly what we're doing here. If somebody wanted to create something like this, how would it happen? Under current code, it's a little tougher, although again, we've allowed these 5-story buildings, downtown for a while, but I don't know that we've been as serious about it as we are now, right? It was more of a kind of a pipe dream. We just put out there and we said, okay, this whole area, you can do this. Now we've focused in, and now we've said, this is what this can look like. And from that becomes the building blocks, and I think it'll become contagious. Let's face it, we haven't had any new construction in our downtown core since, I think, Fraser's Hideaway was the last new construction down there, and it's probably been 20 years now. Our conversations and our efforts to make the changes that are needed to allow something like this to happen, I think will be the catalyst for more stuff going on downtown. And I think we can all look back maybe 10, 15 years from now and go, that actually worked. We're actually seeing redevelopment, and we're actually seeing people take down properties, redevelop them into this vision once people see what can be done. And obviously once the city makes the code amendments and stuff that are needed to allow something like this to happen. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you, Councilmember Wiesner. I think everyone now has spoken. Councilmember Arms, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think it's a great plan. I think I'm on board. I think this is a vision that the city, downtown especially, I see downtown not really thriving like it should, and I hope this will be the input they need to really think outside the box and really revitalize that area, and especially when we're coming from 20 to come downtown. And so I'm looking forward to that, and I think it'll be really a great job.
Thank you. Now everyone has spoken, and I would entertain a motion. Councilmember Marion.
With fierce conviction and intense trepidation, I move to approve Resolution 25, TAC 23, adopting the Oak Harbor Vision to Action planning document for the Waterfront District and committing to the goal of redeveloping downtown.
We have a motion as presented by Councilmember Marion, seconded by Councilmember Arms. Before I call for a vote, is there any further discussion? Okay, Councilmember Marion.
I want it to be on record that if any agency or party attempts to use coercive threats to push through seizing people's property or eminent domain or any related thing, then you can expect militant litigation And the reason I say that is because I've been a witness to it in law enforcement and civil process in Texas, where entire neighborhoods, eminent domain, they were just driven out of their homes to build a stadium, and then the developers did nothing. They did nothing. So what I'm trying to say as a point of policy is that I stand with the property owners.
Okay. Any other discussion at this time before I call for a vote? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Steve Schuler. We are going to move on to contracts and agreements. Agreement for sharing taxpayer information between participating cities. Here to introduce this topic is our finance manager, Chaz Webster.
All right. Everybody awake still? Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Chaz Webster, Finance Manager, and tonight I'm presenting the City of Oak Harbor's opportunity to participate in the Seattle Tax Sharing Agreement. Seattle, in coordination with the Municipal Research and Services Center, is hosting this program. It allows participating cities to securely share tax data and best practices for the new local B&O tax. And this agreement supports efficient administration of Oak Harbor's B&O tax program, and importantly, there is no cost for the city to join. This agreement comes with several key benefits. First, administrative efficiency. It avoids us having to build a costly new tax system by leveraging Seattle's infrastructure. Second, cost savings. It reduces staffing and technology costs that would otherwise fall to Oak Harbor. Third, data sharing. It allows us to securely receive taxpayer information while meeting strict confidentiality requirements. Fourth, expert support. We gain access to established processes, templates, and best practices from Seattle and other participating cities. Fifth, consistency and compliance, aligning our tax administration with proven statewide models. And lastly, faster implementation. This will streamline our startup in time for the October 2025 effective date, with first collection scheduled in April 2026. In addition to those benefits, this agreement strengthens collaboration with other municipalities. It creates a secure framework for sharing that tax information. It improves our consistency across jurisdictions and provides Oak Harbor with the resources needed to administer our new tax program efficiently and effectively. By joining this agreement, Oak Harbor becomes part of a growing network of Washington municipalities working together on B&O tax administration. This regional collaboration ensures that our taxpayers experience consistent practices across jurisdictions and that Oak Harbor benefits from the collective expertise. Therefore, tonight's motion requests authorization for the mayor to sign the agreement for sharing taxpayer information between participating cities with the City of Seattle. And by approving this motion, the council authorizes Oak Harbor's participation in the licensing and B&O tax sharing program.
Great. Thank you, Chaz. And first, I will confirm that we received no public comments on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No public comments were received.
And then I will ask all one of you that are left here with us this evening, would you like to step forward and make comment? Okay. With that, then I will move on and ask council for their questions or comments. Councilmember Marion.
I read over the text of the proposal, and one of the things that struck me was the city of Seattle. And if there's any city that I can think of nearby that I don't want us to imitate, is what city Seattle has done to themselves and to that whole structure. But I've been informed that this particular program is not really a city of Seattle. It's what's the term for the organization that
MRSC?
The MRSC. In other words, so my understanding is that we're not going to be dictated to by the big brother in Seattle, right? Because many of us have fled Seattle for a reason, okay? And so I have that confidence, especially since there are other communities that have gone into this, that they're still part of it. And we do not have to be, we're not bound by it. It's not like we're,
No.
stuck forever, okay? So we can back out of it if
Sure.
it doesn't work, okay? So I just wanted to state that, that it sounds reasonable. I did mention to our city administrator that completely consistent with contractors and retail and business in general is that they have the gotcha. That is, there's no cost to join. And then along comes the subscription fees and the updates and all the rest of the countless costs. So are you able to speak to any of that?
Yeah, so it's a tax sharing agreement, so it's not a governance arrangement with
Okay.
Seattle. They're just simply the host city. So they provide the data sharing framework, so they provide that agreement that we're gonna ask the mayor to sign. And it just allows information to be shared. So there's going to be information security officers that are named in that agreement, which is myself and Dave.
Okay.
And it will only be the two of us, data sharing, and really it only comes into play if there's an audit that we need to be involved in or a compliance issue. There isn't like a download or transmission of information happening monthly, daily. It's not that sort of thing. It's just so that we can talk to them and they can share best practices with us. So.
Okay, and finally is the cost piece, the ongoing cost. What, I mean.
No
what-
cost.
Oh, really?
No
We'll
cost.
Okay, we'll see.
I mean, other than my time learning.
Okay, I'm trusting it. Okay, good. All right.
Think of it this way. It's all about sharing information. It's no different than what the Department of Revenue and IRS do. They share information. It's like a state authority and the federal authority sharing taxing information. That's all it is. Yes, Councilmember Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chaz. I think this is a great idea. You've had me at no cost to us. It saves us money by not having to build out the tax system. It saves us startup costs. I mean, it creates consistency, and best practices have already been established. So I absolutely see this as a win for our city, and I appreciate you bringing this forward to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion. Councilmember Marshall.
I move to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement for sharing taxpayer information between participating cities with the city of Seattle to participate in its licensing and B&O tax sharing program.
And I gladly second.
All right, so we have a motion as presented by Councilmember Marshall, seconded by Councilmember Marrow. Is there any further discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chaz. And that is the last item on the list, so there being no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, all in favor, raise your right hand. We are adjourned at